Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. You know, music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
Ya llegaron los ahorros y estilos de otoño a JCPenney, con hasta 50% de descuento en nuestra venta del hogar más grande de la temporada y ahorra 35% extra con tu cupón. Además, ahorra 40% en ropa de invierno para toda la familia y 20% en juguetes y disfraces Disney. Compra con estilo, JCPenney. Ofertas y cupón válido hasta el 31 de octubre en selección de estilos. Apliquen exclusiones. La temporada se refiere al periodo del 31 de julio al 31 de octubre. Disney se excluye de los cupones. Detalles en la tienda jcp.com.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeff Cobb, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review this past Sunday's Battle Autumn show, preview this week's Battle Autumn shows, and Rumble on 44th Street, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details.
Jeremy, you forgot to mention that we also are going to be previewing the night before the Rumble on 44th Street.
You know, I count it all as one thing.
It's not one thing, it's separate.
It's the 44th Street weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of matches announced for that show too. So
I know, big stack card. I can't wait to go over both nights. Huge, unbelievable match of the year contender after match of the year contender. Oh, man. But, young boy, did you check out the Road to Honeymoon podcast?
Yeah, I did. And I got to say, I really enjoyed the episode, but I felt like there was too much coming from my neck, you know? You guys were coming at me, and I took it as disrespect many of the time, you know? Like, she downgraded the show simply because you weren't on the show, okay? She told me that my opinion on ratings, takes, and opinions is wrong. And then, you know, said that you're the ace of podcasts, which, you know, that whole thing, I don't know. No, I'm just playing. You guys actually, if you guys haven't checked it out, Jeremy and his wife, they did a podcast together, unbeknownst to me, during Jeremy's honeymoon while they were driving, and I thought it was pretty funny. I really enjoyed it. Here's the only thing I will say: we got to work on the nicknames for both of you guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Ace and Deuce is not going to work out. We need something better. But I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either. I mean, we had a lot of like long road trips on the honeymoon because we stayed in Sedona, and so we went. Like one day we did like the Grand Canyon, and that was like a 2.5 hour drive from Sedona, and then we went out to like the Painted Desert and the Petrified Forest, which again was another like 2-hour drive there and back to where we were staying in Sedona. And so how it all came up was, we were listening to music, and like she had control of the radio for most of the trip, and she's playing like 70s, 80s like classic like rock, like Highway to the Danger Zone, like stuff like that. And after a while, I was like, can we play something of like, modern, like something that I
wow,
like?
Bro. Telling on yourself right now.
I felt like with you, like watching wrestling matches, like you're trying to get me to watch all the 70s and 80s. I'm like, can we watch something, from like the last 10 years? And she's like, oh, you want to put something else on? And then she just popped on Keeping It Strong Style, which the episode with you and James on Pandora. Like, let's listen to it. I was like, okay. And then she had like all these questions, like as we were listening to the show.
There was a lot that she was saying on the show that made me realize that maybe too regularly, and maybe this is a good or negative thing, I don't know, but maybe too regularly we don't explain either inside jokes or even just wrestling cultural references. And we don't really break them down for like the more casual like listener or like a newcomer to New Japan. And I do feel like our podcast is pretty accessible to those who maybe are unfamiliar, but there was a lot of things where she was pointing out, she's like, what did this mean? And what did this mean? And I was like, dang, I guess I need to explain things a little bit better sometimes, and just assume that maybe not every listener is like just a diehard and been diving into Shinihan for years and years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had the assumption that like, all right, if you have found a New Japan podcast, you probably know like have some kind of base knowledge of New Japan and wrestling and
right.
But who knows? Maybe there are, maybe people just randomly finding us to have no idea and are listening. So yeah, maybe we do need to like break some stuff down. But yeah, so
go ahead.
No, so yeah, she had all these questions. He's like, let's record a podcast like reviewing this stuff and like answering my questions. I was like, okay. So he pops her phone out. And yeah, we recorded one like on one of the drives back to Sedona.
Yeah, and it was a podcast where she was asking questions about the things that I fucked up. And I took that as disrespect. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't think it was all about that.
But I got to tell you, no, you guys did a great job. And if she's listening, she knows I'm playing. But yeah, man, I'm feeling good. Feeling really good about this episode. I mean, better than here's the dirty little secret of the show. When you guys listen, I might put on a brave face and a smiley face every week. But the past few weeks, that's all bullshit. This is the real good Josh Smith. The past few weeks, that was all facade, and I'm ready to actually serve you guys with the best takes, ratings, and opinions and reviews and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, sorry about the last, 6 months, because day one starts today.
Man, young boy's fired up.
No, I'm just playing. It's the same old shit.
Before we start, we did have a question here from Dan wanting to know, when are you going to bring on the Deuce regularly for the recommended match of the week review?
See, the reason I don't like that is number one, like calling Jen like the Deuce implies that she's second. Like that's not, she's not second. Plus, like Deuce, it's not like, I don't know, it's not a great name. Like she needs to have something that's more fitting her station. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, we're still workshopping the nicknames, but she really liked the whole Ace and Deuce thing. So
she thought that the reason that this show is called the Ace of Podcasts is because you are the Ace in the Ace of Podcasts. She didn't know that was a tagline for the show.
Right, this whole time.
She's like, you always been the ace to me. I don't know. I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, so you guys can find that on the Social Suplex Podcast Network feed. Make sure you're listening to the show on both feeds, subscribe on both feeds, rate on both feeds, help get both feeds over. But let's jump into some New Japan.
Put us over, brother.
So first thing here, I mean, this probably would normally be a news.
Wait. You didn't answer the question though. I mean, is this a one-off? I mean, is this a one night only? What's going on?
I don't know. We might figure out what we can do. We might, try to pull like the whole like Rich Craich gimmick where he has his wife on sometimes and she reviews matches and does
I'll tell you the truth. Like, Megan's in the other room, so she can probably hear this. So I'm gonna try to keep it down. But like, she's been trying to come on the show for like years now, and I've been shutting it down like constantly. But like, if she finds out that if she finds out that we had Jen on the show, then like it's gonna be, then she gonna have to come on the show. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just playing. But no, like literally last week, Megan was like, "I'll come on the show," and I was like, "We got 6 nights of wrestling to review. Are you gonna like watch all of that?" And she's like, "You don't watch all of it. You barely pay attention." And I was like, I'm a seasoned professional. I know what's happening without even, I can look down at my phone and I know what's going to happen to Taguchi. Like, I get it. Like,
yeah, the funny thing, Jen has been asking too. Like, I don't know if she's been serious, but like, I've been asking about to come on. I'm like, well, we're in the middle of Best of Super Juniors right now. If you want to, review all these tournament matches.
Now, here's the weird thing. I thought about that for a second. What about all the times when we're listening to, because it's no secret, we both listen to the Flagship, right? And they do the gimmick where, one of their wives will like walk in and then they'll start talking to the other host. And but then I thought to myself, how does that even work? Because when we're recording, I got headphones in, you got headphones in, nobody in the outside world can hear anything except for my voice. So how are they communicating? Like, are they in a full studio setup without headphones? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their setup is, but yeah, maybe
it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Maybe there'll be more podcast specials with Jen. Maybe we'll get Megan on. Maybe we'll do a Social Suplex wives and girlfriends, and have them all get on a podcast and bury the husbands and boyfriends and all that good stuff.
That's probably exactly what would happen.
Oh man,
you get put over and I get buried is probably what would happen.
Oh man.
And that's just generally how it always is, no matter what's going on in life. So that makes sense.
No, that's not true. You get put over plenty.
You better believe it, brother.
All right, man. Let's talk about New Japan. First thing here, this would be like a news story, but I feel like it's a hot news story. A lot of people have been talking about this, and I don't think we really honed in on it quite a lot because there's been a lot going on in the last couple episodes. I want to start off the top with this, with the Karl Anderson never title situation. So NJPW President Takami Obari says that they are doing everything they can to ensure all matches listed for the November 5th in Osaka show take place as advertised. As we know, the Good Brothers released a video last week claiming that NJPW never confirmed the November 5th date with them and said Anderson will not be defending his title at the Battle Autumn show that's happening November 5th in Osaka. Obari took to social media on Saturday to say that they are working to ensure the match takes place and that they expect all wrestlers to honor their advertised commitments. We're doing all we can to ensure every signed match in Osaka on November 5th happens as promised. We expect all wrestlers, especially champions, to honor their advertised commitments, the NJPW president wrote on Twitter. Obari also told Tokyo Sports in an interview last week that he is angry about the situation involving Anderson and the Never Openweight Championship. Hikuleo directed his post-match comments on Saturday toward Anderson and the situation involving the Never Openweight Championship. Hikuleo saying, "You think you forgot about me? I've got a lot on my plate right now, but I can make time for you. What are you scared of, Karl Anderson? The second non-Japanese person to make the final of the G1 is scared of someone who's just coming back from a learning excursion. The former multiple-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, scared of someone who's only had 2 title matches. Listen, you want to call yourself bright lights? don't forget who turned on those lights for you. New Japan did. And now you want to say those lights are brighter? You want to say your lights are brighter? Well, don't turn your back on us. Don't forget where you came from. Hikuleo said to Anderson. Karl, you want to hide from me? I'll find you. And when I do, I will knock all your lights out. So, young boy, what are your thoughts on this whole Karl Anderson never title situation being double booked? Is it a work? Is it not a work? What's your thoughts on everything going on now?
Well, there's definitely working that's taking place. As to whether it's all a work, I couldn't say. We've heard reports from others that are out there that say that a lot of this is of a worked nature. And I think if you've been watching New Japan for a long time and seen how management handles situations like this in a real world capacity, the way it's being handled currently is very unlike their, MO. Typically, hypothetically speaking, if somebody really was unable to fulfill a title date due to whatever extenuating circumstance, we've seen people that were injured, we've seen people that had to take mental health breaks, we've seen people that had natural disasters, travel issues, all sorts of things. And unless their name was Jon Moxley, they stripped the person. And you know what? The Jon Moxley is a great precedent, because why didn't they strip Jon Moxley? There was some sort of agreement in place to allow him to continue to hold that belt, because they had some sort of business motive to continue to have him be the champion. Now, I'm not saying that this is the exact same thing where, I know there's speculation that people think, oh, WWF and New Japan might have a working relationship and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that that's quite what's taking place here, but there is obviously, they haven't stripped the guy. They're playing things up in the media. They got the president talking. They got people cutting promos. They had Rocky, in this guy's Instagram mentions talking about give the belt back, dude, and fuck off. And yeah, this all just screams work. And I know that a lot of wrestling fans and pundits and analyzers and content creators, people like us, love to be the smartest guy in the room and say, oh, everything's a work. Just like all wrestlers think everything is a work. But we're not typically those guys. And I'm only willing to really stake our reputation on the idea that this is work just based off history. You look at the way they've handled any real life situation where a champion couldn't defend, couldn't show up, much less be double booked by a competing company. That usually would result in them stripping that person, cutting off contact with them, and just moving on, having like a new title match altogether, set up. In this case, they haven't done that. Guns and Gallows, they had tweeted out not too long ago before all this happened, look out in the next few months, we're getting ready to do something that's never been seen in history. There's reports from Voices of Wrestling, amongst others, people that have contacts in the company that are saying that this is absolutely a work. And so to that end, I think all the signs point in the direction that there's definitely a work taking place. Otherwise, they would just cut off business ties with the guy and they wouldn't move forward with any kind of match. And also, it's Karl Anderson. It's not like it's Jon Moxley or some major star.
Right, yeah.
It's a guy that they've done business with for a long time. They've got personal relationships with, and they probably just want to, this is probably them just trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. What I think probably happened, initially when they signed with WWE, and I'm just speculating here, this is just what my gut tells me, WWE probably said, yeah, you can finish out your dates, but you're going to work Saudi. They're like, but we're already booked for Saudi. Well, you're under contract, so you're going to work Saudi. Then they went to New Japan and like, all right, well, let's figure out what we got to do to get to 1-4. How can we make this, lucrative for both you and us? Obviously, WWE's not involved in this anyway. They're not tweeting stuff out. They're not making mentions on their show. They're not doing stuff on their social media. This is kind of just a deal, I believe, with a quasi blessing from WWE to let these guys finish out their quote unquote dates, for them to drum up a little storyline, drum up a little bit of controversy, get the anger and the ire from the New Japan hardcores to potentially do a little business in the Tokyo Dome and send these guys off to New York.
Yeah. The whole thing about being double booked, like, I don't think that is a work, at least part of it. I don't think, like, what is the work of wanting to, double book a guy that you expect to show up for a big show? I don't think that was a work. Like you said, I think they got double booked, and then they're like, all right, how can we turn this into a work?
How can we work people and make money off this?
Exactly. And I feel like this situation is actually kind of similar to the Juice Robinson U.S. title situation that we saw earlier this year, where Juice got appendicitis and was still the U.S. champion, was scheduled for a U.S. title match, and like New Japan knew that he had appendicitis and was going to probably have to go to the hospital and not be able to compete, but the match was still scheduled. Juice cut promos kind of similar to Anderson saying, hey, I'm not showing up. I'm not cleared. I don't know why you guys keep advertising this match. And then come that show happens, they start the show by saying, Juice is not making it. He's stripped the title. We have a new U.S. match. It's going to be, Ospreay and Sonata, or whatever the match was. And then that's your new U.S. title match. So it seems like we're probably going to get a similar situation. I would think, November 5th is going to come. Show's going to start. Anderson is not going to be there. They're going to strip him of the belt. And then it's going to be Hikuleo versus somebody, Ishii, Goto, whoever. And that's going to be an ever champion, which I think will build to potentially, we talked about this off the air, like a double champion match, a champion versus champion, where Anderson could be like, hey, I never lost an ever title. I'm going to be at the Tokyo Dome. It's the bright lights, blah, blah, blah. And then you do Anderson versus Hikuleo unification match to get an undisputed never champion.
WrestleMania 10, 2 titles hung above the ring. And you got Hikuleo doing the Shawn Michaels frog splash off of the top of the ladder. I mean, I don't know what I think whatever they end up doing at the scheduled, it's an Osaka show, right?
Yes, the Battle Autumn in Osaka, November 5th.
Whatever they end up doing there is going to be very telling. If they don't do anything, like let's say they just put Hikuleo in a non-title eliminator type match or a multi-man or something like that, and they don't strip Karl, that tells you everything you need to know. If they do anything where Karl is totally stripped and he never comes back to work for the company, then that would tell you that maybe there is a little bit more realism going on here than most people are willing to admit. But I think the reality is it's probably going to be exactly what you described there, Jeremy. It's going to be some sort of, either Hikuleo's going to come out and then Karl doesn't show up and then they forfeit him and they automatically give the title to Hikuleo, or they'll call the title vacant and they'll have Hikuleo fight someone for the title right then and there. Or who knows? Maybe they do a little tourney. They vacate the title and then they do a little mini tourney. Hard to say. But one of those things is definitely happening because this guy's going to be in Saudi Arabia that night. He's not showing up.
Yeah. So, this whole thing has, become quite a hot mess. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a work and all this stuff. But to me, like you were saying, like, this is for Karl Anderson. It's not Jon Moxley. It's not Bryan Danielson. It's not a Kenny Omega. It's not some big top drawing star that they're trying to make all these accommodations for. And I get it. Anderson, was a big guy in the New Japan office back in the day. He was Gato's boy. He came up through the LA dojo, original member of Bullet Club. But all this work just to, keep Anderson around, do some business with him. I'm like, personally, I think it's a waste of time, work or not a work. Like, I don't think it's worth putting time and energy in Karl Anderson. Like, personally, if it was me, as soon as I found out he's double booked, I'm like, all right, cool. We're stripping you. We're going to advertise a new match, and we're done.
Provided that that's what actually happened. Because, again, maybe there is a little bit of collusion here. Maybe this was a pre-planned thing to some degree. I'm not saying 100% that it was fake or 100% it was real, but maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And they did need to be like, all right, well, we still got a date on this guy. Let's not blow it. Let's try to make some money off of it. What's the best way we can turn controversy into cash,
Right.
The other thing too, and I agree with you. I think it is a lot of to do for, Karl Anderson. But the other issue at hand is New Japan as a whole and the way that they've handled similar real life situations over the past year, and all the various different title issues with whether it was the Never title or the US title. We've seen a lot of situations in real life that were very real and were handled very similarly to this. And situations where, like, when Kota Ibushi was advertised and the booking office didn't communicate properly with him on those 1 or 2 or 3 times, depending on who you believe, and the Juice Robinson storyline. And there have been a lot of times in the past where in real life, New Japan didn't communicate with guys that were either sick or injured or ineligible, and then advertised them and then had to pull the booking.
Alex
Coughlin's another example. There's been a lot of recent examples, and then suddenly they're doing a storyline that parodies what they already have a bad tendency of doing. That's not good, in my opinion. It's not good to highlight your, disorderly conduct as a booking company, and your false advertising, and then be like, well, let's turn it into a shoot. No. Like, I don't know. I do see some of the positives here. I think this has gotten a lot more attention onto New Japan than many of the other positive things. I mean, there's more people talking about this than there is, like, say, the TV title tournament or Okada and Jay White.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a positive upside there, but I don't know if it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one benefit you do have that, WWE audience, if they follow Karl on Twitter, maybe they'll, hop over to watch the match and, sign up for NJPW World. But I highly doubt that there's going to be a huge conversion rate off of that. So I don't know.
No, I think the main thing is the idea is to set up Hikuleo or whoever as the New Japan representative who's ousting these, big leaguing, part-time guys that are going to WWE and getting them out of here. And that's the storyline. It's supposed to enrage the New Japan diehards. And the reality is, I think everyone that watches New Japan is angry to some degree. It's just, what's the reason? Are you fully worked and you're fully gimmicked up into it? And you're like, or are you partially smartened up and you're just, there's a lot of different reasons to be mad. And I don't know if running an angle that is mostly focused on people being angry about the product and about the company and about the management, as opposed to, I mean, how many people are talking about Hikuleo in all of this? Like very little, like almost nobody.
He's a footnote in this whole thing.
Right. And he should be the focus. And so I don't know if this was, and hey, you know what? You know why? Because the Good Brothers are two of the greatest workers of our generation. Notice I didn't say wrestlers. I said workers. They are grifters extraordinaire. I put out a tweet a little while ago that said something to the extent like, these guys are the workers that a certain top guy tag team thinks that they wish that they were. And then someone was like, is that a good thing? Or you call these guys grifters. Normally that's bad, but you make it sound good. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And I just said yes.
Well,
because it's both.
Right. I mean, it's good for them because their pocketbooks are getting lined with NJPW money, WWE money, Impact money. Like, these guys have been grifting all year long. I mean, it's great for them.
They're grifting, and now we're grifting by talking about their grift to grift you people out of your time, money, and energy. No, I'm just playing. But you know what? One funny thing. Anytime, and this is just a very telling thing about this podcast and maybe our audience, Jeremy. Maybe anytime I put anything out into the Twitterverse that is even kind of critical about FTR, it gets almost no engagement whatsoever. And the funny thing is, there's diehard New Japan fans out there that are saying and doing the same things as us, but they're not liking my posts about it. So I think the reality is that we in the New Japan spectrum cross over pretty heavily with like the AEW fan base, like that type of audience.
Yeah.
But I don't think they like when I talk bad about hair and bald.
Well, I know a lot of our early listeners, at least I know, were that AEW fan base that kind of left when the Elite left. Because I know I've had listeners been like, yeah, I've kind of been in and out because the Elite left and it's been hard to get into New Japan and that kind of stuff. So I know there's definitely some kind of AEW fan base that were listening or still listen or occasionally listen. So yeah, they probably are not big fans of the FTR slander.
Yeah, I put out like the tweet about loving the match with Aussie Open, tons of engagement. But anytime I've been like, these guys need to come defend their belt. These guys need to stop complaining so much online. These guys are belt mark babies. Nothing. Like it gets like zero, like nothing. Like people don't like that shit. Yeah. I think people really love FTR.
They do. I mean,
they do. It's crazy.
Listen to the crowd reactions. I mean, they're super over right now, and they've built up some goodwill with a large amount of the fan base.
Even that match that you and I didn't get to discuss it on the air really too well. Yeah, I guess we did last week, but that was one of the weird things I forgot to mention was like last week was the match with Aussie Open. In my mind, being a New Japan pundit, someone that watches the shows, watches Strong. I know Aussie Open are kind of quote unquote technically bad guys because they're part of like United Empire, but United Empire kind of has a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And to me, they facilitate that like New Japan defender status because they're here, they're working, they're part of the company, they're New Japan guys. FTR are the outsiders, but to me, FTR were the heels who were coming in with a title that they've been holding hostage for months and months and months with no title defenses, with no presence on the show, with nothing, zero, zilch, nada. And I was thinking that Aussie Open were like the hot, young, up-and-coming baby faces that needed to get the title back from them. That is not how the audience saw it. They were the heels, and FTR were the returning supreme heroes, which it blew my mind because I didn't see it that way at all.
Well, I mean, I was kind of expecting that, considering just how the alignments are. Like FTR, yeah, they're pure baby faces right now. AEW, and then like you mentioned, I know United Empire, they're heel leaning, but for the most part, they've kind of been heels in New Japan, and when they appear on AEW television, and that UK fan base, yeah, they were all over FTR. It's been a long time since they've seen FTR in person, so that fan base was like salivating for them.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that kind of blew my mind, and but this is the hill I'm gonna die on. I don't care. Like great performers, incredible performers, but I don't like those dudes. But we had some questions about Karl Anderson.
Yeah, first from Rambone Slam Pick, which we kind of answered. Thoughts on the further development in the Karl Anderson saga? I hope they just vacate the title and move on rather than try to stretch this mess out for a Wrestle Kingdom title change. I mean, like I said, I feel like that's what they are going to do, at least a unification. If they don't,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
If they don't strip him, then it will be a title match, but I think it's going to be unification.
I think it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, I think a lot of the fan base just flat out does not want to see Karl. So, if he does just leave, most people would probably be happy. But at the same time, New Japan isn't able to capitalize on the heat that they're getting off this guy where, fans want to see him lose and get beat. And, so maybe it would be better for Hikuleo to get his first title win over Karl Anderson and oust him from the company. And that might be a really good, Wrestle Kingdom moment. And at the same time, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, Hikuleo versus Karl Anderson, pass. Give me something else.
Yeah, especially since we are back to a one-night Wrestle Kingdom card. We don't have like a 2-card where you can kind of throw some stuff around. Like, this is a one-night card, so I'm kind of aiming my expectations back to what we got when we got one night, and we had a stacked lineup. And you look at some of the never title matches in those one-night cards, like we got some banger never title matches.
Well, let me ask you your opinion on this then, and let me just put some of this in perspective. They put the title on Karl Anderson. Terrible run. They had him defeat a streaking Tama Tonga. They had him defeat the Ace of the Universe, Hiroshi Tanahashi, in a nothing match. And now the guy's working for WWE. There's been a lot of terrible things that have happened in this ring. Would you rather that they just strip him of the title. We never see the guy again. And now Hikuleo is the heir apparent with, like, you know, him just against Joe Schmo and going. And, you know, there's not a lot of time for them to build a real program for him for Wrestle Kingdom. So there's that. Or would you rather them just do the match and have Hikuleo go over? What's the more positive outcome for you? Hikuleo gets put over and they try to at least make something on the Karl Anderson, you know, run, or just get Karl out of the way altogether and put Hikuleo in there with anybody.
So
because I see the appeal of both sides of that.
For me, selfishly, as a fan and somebody who reviews this product every week, I would be elated to never have to watch a Karl Anderson New Japan match ever again. I'd be totally fine if they were like, you know what, Karl, this is not working out. We're stripping you of the belt. Good looking WWE. We're going to do Hikuleo versus Ishii, and we're going to go from there, and then somebody else will come out and challenge, and then we'll set up a match for Hikuleo at Wrestle Kingdom and, you know, move on. Now, from a business standpoint, putting on a New Japan office lens, I think as a business person, if I was in that office, maybe I would be like, all right, we do need to kind of capitalize on this buzz. People are talking about it. There are, you know, WWE audience might cross over. Let's see what we can do to capitalize on this. Let's try and get some kind of match, whether it is we do a number one contender match at Osaka and then do the winner, have Hikuleo win that, and then Hikuleo versus Anderson at Wrestle Kingdom, or we do a double title match at Wrestle Kingdom. I could see why the New Japan office might want to do that business-wise, but from a fan standpoint, from an enjoyment-wise, from a match quality-wise, what you could do, I would personally be okay with just washing my hands of Karl Anderson and moving on.
I will say this. I am in the camp where I've always, and this was something you probably heard me say to James a few weeks ago, you and I have been early in. We bought in on Hikuleo early, okay? And I am of the opinion that he does need a signature win to kind of get him started, get him established. And I can't think of a better win for him to get than ousting Karl from the company, you know? Yeah. So from that standpoint, I would like to see it. The other part of it, too, is like, as someone that has had to watch all the Karl Anderson and Gallows matches since they returned, you know, even just going back to even Strong, you know, and also all the stuff in Impact that involved New Japan guys and all the stuff in AEW, you know, it's like, what was all this for? Let's at least have, in my opinion, I'm like, let's have a payoff, because so far it's just been them getting. Let's have someone get some comeuppance at least and send the guys back to, you know, to Connecticut. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. At this point, and then also it's like, if the company is going to work us and work the angle, then let's just pay off the angle at this point.
Yeah.
My only concern is, what if they don't show up? These are not necessarily individuals you can trust.
Right.
So who knows?
And again, with them being under WWE contract, what if some house show magically pops up on January 4th or some other overseas show?
I know they said they weren't doing day 1, but what if they do day 4 and they magically start a day 4 pay-per-view and it's on January 4th, and then we have to, you know, worry about that? It's possible.
Right. So, I mean, who knows? With them, you never know what it's, I mean, who knows? A Saudi show could pop up. The prince is like, I want to do a show on January 4th. I mean, and they're like, okay.
They call it the greatest Wrestle Kingdom ever. Oh man. Death Triangle 720 has a question here, and that person might need to change their name, because Death Triangle is about to be kaput, I think.
Yeah, we saw some seeds of dissension there last week on AEW.
Not me. It was on Tuesday. I didn't watch that shit.
So he asked, what would you do with the never open weight situation, which I feel we kind of described about.
Yeah.
And he said, should they just strip him of the belt or retire the belt as a whole? And that's something I have been seeing a lot of people saying, let's just get rid of the Never belt. We have the TV belt coming. Let's, phase the Never title out.
Here's the issue with that. The Never title has always facilitated this important third belt role where it wasn't something that was obviously a headliner, but you could headline Road to shows and things like that if you ever wanted to. We've seen some excellent Road to Never title matches, but also it had a different style of presentation and match layout to where it was like we've affectionately nicknamed it, and this has changed a little bit recently, but like throughout the years of this show, we've always called it the Karl Gotch World Title, the Strong Style World Title, which is what the Never belt has been. It's been the belt where two dudes go in there and they kick the shit out of each other, and they have these short, bursty, hard hitting, like strong style matches. And that was a totally different style than the secondary belt or the world title. And obviously they got rid of the IC belt. So the state of that number 2 slot has been in flux. It looked like at one point they were going to elevate the Never title to that spot. And then COVID happened and it didn't really work out that way. Now it seems like maybe the US belt is kind of the one that is sort of being slotted for that. But, this whole thing about the Never title originally being a young guys belt, and now they have a new young guys belt. So it's it's going to facilitate that role. I understand that, but like, dude, the Never belt hasn't been a young man's belt since the first day that since 2012, since they first awarded the title to, who won it first? Masato Tanaka?
Yeah, a non-young guy.
Yeah, Masato Tanaka from ECW and FMW. Yeah, that guy who's still having bangers even in his old age right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, this has never been, even though it was supposed to be a next generation title, it just never was that belt. And my fear is you get rid of it and then you get rid of the hard hitting, and I think the idea is some people think that the TV title is going to be nothing but sprints a la Shibata Ishii. And that's not going to be the case.
Well, I mean, I think based on the tournament that we've seen so far, they haven't all been sprints. I mean, there have been parts of the matches that have been sprints, but we haven't got a full-on bell-to-bell 15-minute sprint. And like you're saying, I feel like why people are maybe clamoring for the Never title to maybe go away, I think the Never title has maybe lost its identity in the last couple of years. Like you mentioned, like
recently, yes.
Yeah, like the niche of that Never title was, all right, it's that strong style title. We're going to have Goto and Ishii and Shibata and Suzuki and Ibushi, and we're going to have all Taichi, we're going to have all these hard hitters, Jeff Cobb, these big heavyweight
Will
guys.
Ospreay.
Yeah, we're going to have all these
Yujiro.
We're going to have these hard hitters, these heavyweight guys have these slugfests, and it was kind of its own little niche and attraction. But then
then Jay White happened.
Right, they unify the IC title. COVID happened, and then the Never title was supposed to be the secondary belt. It's supposed to be the IC belt, but then Jay couldn't get to Japan, and then for a whole year, and then they had the match of Ishii, dropped it to Ishii, and then ever since then, it's been kind of struggling to kind of get back to exactly where it was.
Right, but here's the thing. I would much rather have a belt that has a lineage and history of being that type of title and can very quickly be shined up to be the hard hitter's badass belt, especially with all the dudes in the pipeline that wrestle that style that are like on the horizon. I'd rather them just facilitate this belt as being something different and, still facilitating that role than just nixing it all together. And then it's like, all right, well, what do all those bruisers fight over? I guess you could turn the TV title into that, but the TV title is hypothetically supposed to be a 15-minute. It's its own unique thing altogether. And it's like, it's not a 1-for-1 trade if you get rid of the Never belt and you bring in the TV title. What it is, it's a trade-off. You can have 15-minute matches, which is a whole unique, entirely different thing altogether, and still is being formulated and invented and imagined as this whole new thing. or you can have the strong style title, or you can have both. And I think they're dissimilar enough to where there's a role and a reason on a New Japan card for both of those belts. In my opinion, the belt that doesn't make sense has always been the U.S. belt, because it was supposed to be a U.S. title and they never use it in the U.S.
Right.
And the only reason it's around right now, realistically, is because they got rid of the IC title, and Kenny Omega and Jay White held the belt once upon a time and lended their, whatever the word is.
Credibility.
Their credibility. The fact that they held it, the fact that, Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega fought over it in the semi-main event elevated it. So it holds a place of distinction. But realistically, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, that belt's been cursed. It's been passed around by a million different people. It's ugly as fuck. And if there's ever been a title that needs to not be in New Japan, maybe it's the title that's named after a country that they barely ever even use it in to begin with.
Right. I mean, they have a U.S. product now, which the U.S. title is never on. I mean, they put it on some of the pay-per-views this year, but I mean, I don't understand why the U.S. title couldn't be the top title on Strong instead of creating a Strong openweight title.
Because, Jeremy, it's exactly what I said on that show with James. It's because there is an outlaw agenda where they want to get rid of IWGP and they want to make everything NJPW, and it's not right, and I don't support it. And as far as I'm concerned, anything that's titled Never or NJPW, those are now officially outlaw titles. Only the IWGP will be recognized on Keepin It Strong Style. Okay, Antonio Inoki did not do that sell job to Hulk Hogan in 1983, so you guys could name Aussie Open the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions.
Oh my gosh, dude, that would be a great character for somebody to be all these outlaw titles in New Japan. Fred Rosser, you're an outlaw champion. Aussie Open, outlaw champions. Karl Anderson, outlaw champion.
Here's the funny thing. There was something like that when the Mackay Club was around and stuff like that. They brought back the NWF title because they're like, the IWGP title is not the real title. Antonio Inoki's title was the NWF belt. We're bringing Strong Style back.
Oh, man.
The last question he had was about Hikuleo. And he just said, what do you think about Hikuleo? And I'll tell you, I love him. He's a tall guy. He's got great hair. He's sexy. And he beats people up. He's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Like we said earlier, we've been on the Hikuleo train very early from his early Young Lion days when he first popped up in the scene. And he's improved ever since then. He has a great look. He's learning how to use his size. The Japan audience sees him as this, huge monster that they pop huge when he gets people up for a big choke slam. I think he's going to be an interesting guy to get in the mix. I think he can kind of, fit a bad luck Fale role and even surpass that if he stays in the shape that he's in and continues to improve like he has been in these last several years. So, yeah, I think he's a great addition to the roster, and I think there is a bright future for him.
2023, he's going to be in a New Japan Cup. And he's going to be in a G1 for the first time ever. And those are going to be huge tells as to the future of Hikuleo. But yeah, I'm definitely positive on the guy. And I hope he does win the Never title January 4th.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for that section. Let's talk about this past week's New Japan Battle Autumn Tour Night 8. And I'll run through the results here very quickly. So in opening action, Doki defeated Kosei Fujita, 7 minutes, 23 seconds with the Doki Choki. Second match of the night, the Suzuki-gun team of Kanemaru and ZSJ, they defeated Alex Zane and Yuto Nakashima, 8 minutes and 27 seconds. Third match of the night, the United Empire team of Aaron Hanare, Great Cobb, and Jeff Cobb defeated Oiwa, Makabe, and Toriano. Fourth match of the night, we had the Chaos team of Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi, the longest reigning Never Openweight six-man tag team champions. They defeated Dave Finlay, Ren Narita, and Tiger Mask. Fifth match of the night, the Suzuki-gun team of El Desperado, Taichi, and Taka Michinoku. They defeated the Bullet Club team of Gedo, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori. Sixth match of the night, Hiromu Takahashi and Sanada of LIJ defeated Master Wato and Tomoaki Hanma. And then the semi-main event, the LIJ team of Bushi, Naito, and Titan defeated the United Empire team of Francesco Akira, Gideon Gray, and TJP. Before we jump into the never openweight six-man tag team title main event match that I know everyone is dying to hear about, let's discuss just briefly some of our takeaways of the show and some of the stuff we saw in the undercard here.
Yeah, so I thought Doki looked really good in that opening with Vegeta. That was a fun opening singles match there.
Hey, anytime Doki gets the big W over basically anybody, I'm all for it.
Yeah, so that was fun, getting Doki a big win there. One thing that I'm kind of disappointed with is with how they've been using Alex Zane for this tour. They brought him in for the TV tournament. He had that first round match with Sabre that was a lot of fun, and now he's just stuck on a bunch of multi-man tags. And I'm like, why would you bring this guy in to beat him in the first round and stick him on multi-mans? He's still getting over. He's selling a ton of merch. I would have rearranged the bracket for him to go a little bit deeper in the tournament to capitalize on the momentum he's had this year.
Well, I mean, let's think about it, Jeremy. What could they have done differently? Hypothetically, if you consider him a junior, which at this point, I think that junior run is out the gate. That's gone.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, if you wanted to cheat and still call him a junior because he does flippy shit, you could have potentially tried to work him into that 4-way for Wrestle Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But, they've got almost all exclusively domestic guys, so I could see why maybe they wouldn't want to do that. And then aside from that, there's nothing else going on. You could have made him maybe position him better in the TV title run and had him go a little bit deeper. But that's the only major singles title thing that's really going on currently. The next big thing, obviously, is the crossover show and World Tag League. And if he's going to be here for a little while, I could see him having some sort of cool, interesting, fun tag title, or not tag title, but, tag team run through the tournament for World Tag League. But other than that, it's just that weird time of year where it's not like there's that many compelling options for them to really plug this guy in and do cool, unique things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I get there's probably not a whole ton, but I would have at least had him get maybe at least 1 or 2 wins in that TV tournament, book the tournament a little bit differently to get him to go a little bit deeper. And then I get, throwing him on multi-man stuff after that. Or maybe try to set up a junior tag team for him. I know that we said he's kind of on that edge of not being a junior, but at least get him a new partner to set something up for the junior tag league, which they still might do.
I see it as a positive personally. I know they're not doing anything super compelling with the guy currently, but to me, the Zack Sabre match was very, very good. And them plugging him in as a regular Hontai member, they're not doing that with anyone else aside from Titan. Him and Titan are the only 2 guys that really got called back from Best of Super Juniors back in May. You don't see,
Ace Austin
or El Lindemann or, Utah or what's his name? The guy from AEW.
Wheeler Utah.
You don't see Wheeler Utah doing these multi-man matches. And it kind of reminds me of Jeff Cobb in a way. Remember when Jeff Cobb first came in, we're like, why aren't they doing more with him? Well, now they are. New Japan, they don't always dive in full-fledged with guys right out the gate. They like to work them into the ecosystem of New Japan and kind of establish him. And he is still getting over, and he is still a guy, and he's still a player, but obviously, it's a good sign that he's not the pin eater in the match with Suzuki-gun. They gave him Yuto Nakashima to eat the pin. So I think it's a positive thing. I think it's just them integrating him into the product even more. So your average New Japan, attendee, the people that are buying the tickets or the people watching at home are just get more familiar with him as time goes on, and he becomes a familiar face,
Yeah, which I think is definitely, it's working. I think it's definitely getting him over more being on these shows, teaming with the people he's teaming with. He's still selling merch, still getting over. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll be plugged into something probably a little bit bigger in the future, kind of like Jeff Cobb was, like you mentioned.
One thing I wanted to say, and I didn't say it last week, and I know this might be taken the wrong way, but I just need to say it. What's going on with Yuto Nakashima?
With his hair?
No, with his body, bro. And I don't want to be like the body shame guy, but like he is beefy and not in the good way, not in the like Yota Tsuji way. Like he's beefy in the like, I don't know if your frame can carry all that. You might want to like, he looks like he's on a dirty bulk. He looks like Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in the season where he decided to cultivate mass. And not in a good way. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, what's going on with you? Like, what's the gimmick going to be? Where are we sending you? Like, you're the most senior of all the young lions, but you look the least ready of everybody right now. And like, if I had stocks like bought in, I would say sell. Like, I'm going to sell off on this guy right now.
Oh man, it's a funny thing. That really didn't stand out to me. His hair is the thing that I've been focusing on.
This whole tour, it's been standing out to me. I mean, like, you know, we gave a little bit of grief to like Juice Robinson when he like gained a couple pounds and it wasn't even a big deal. And we're just like, what is this guy doing? Yuto Nakashima's on a whole different realm right now. And I'm like, maybe they feel like he needs to beef up, and that might make sense, but it's not looking good.
Having one too many bowls of Chanko in the dojo.
It looks like he's sneaking off and getting some Big Macs and some Whoppers. Like, I don't know.
He's going out with
like I said, the dirty bulk, you know?
He's
you know, there's bulking, and then there's I'm gonna eat whatever the fuck I want because I'm trying to, you know, cultivate mass.
He's going out there with Alex Zane, just eating all kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's going out with his tag team partner, Alex Zane. Alex Zane's like, it's perfectly fine for you to eat Taco Bell. I do it every day. Wow, this guy looks great. I could definitely do that too.
Oh my god.
It's like, nah, dog. Like, this man's a genetic freak, and you can't be, you know, having like, you know, cheesy gordita crunches like that. Like,
right.
You know.
Oh man. We got a little preview of Ishii Narita on the undercard in that 6-man match that you mentioned.
That was the highlight of the show for me. And you know what? I will say this, Jeremy. This show, I didn't like the main event. We'll get to the main event. But overall, when we did the preview last week and I was looking at it, I was like, this is a nothing show. It's just a bunch of preview matches. The show is almost not worth watching. But then I watched it and I was like, for a show that wasn't a clap crowd show, it's pretty enjoyable, honestly. Now, I'm not telling anybody that's listening, like, if you missed this, you need to go check it out. Hell no. But for those of you that, like, are kind of completists or even just looking to watch something that's, like, good background noise or even just enjoyable, I thought the show overall was pretty, like, easy watches. The matches were very short, very punchy.
It moved on pretty fast. Like, the halfway point came, I was like, oh, we're already halfway through. Like, it kind of breezed by.
Yep, and this particular match with Chaos versus Finlay, Narita, and Tiger Mask was especially, probably, in my opinion, the match of the night. And a lot of it is due to Ishii and Narita's interactions with each other. Now, don't get it twisted. There's a lot of people here because it's the son of Strong Style. They're calling it early and saying this guy's the next, you know, Shibata and everything like that. And I do think they're trying to play off that a little bit, but these interactions between these guys, it wasn't full-fledged Shibata Ishii stuff. But what it was young, hungry upstart guy who's not a young lion anymore, who's not going to take shit, just beating up Ishii and Ishii like muscling through it and beating him up back and forth. And these guys are going to have an awesome match. Like there's no doubt about it. And the interactions in this match were awesome.
Right. And then the post-match where he puts Ishii in a sleeper.
Bro, he slept Ishii, and then when Ishii's partners came in, he dropped them too, and then walked out of the ring standing tall.
Yes,
hell yeah.
Yes.
Brenda Rita, baby.
Son of Strong Style, baby. Let's go.
So that was really cool. Other than that, there wasn't much. You know, obviously in the next match, Desperado, Taichi, and Taka, they're still kind of building up the whole thing with Despy and Taiji. and Hiromu and Wato, and that was also teased in the 6th match of the night as well. So they're still kind of playing around with that 4-way, which I'm not that high on the whole thing. The one thing I keep wondering is when they do that, strange bedfellows match, the one thing that everyone's pretty much wishing is that they don't end up with Master Wato as their tag team partner. And that's the most compelling part of the whole story.
Who's going to get stuck with Wato?
Whoever gets stuck with Wato is losing. Because think about it. Wato plus it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Hiromu, Despy, or Taiji Shimori, the team on the other side is going to be so overpowered, they're going to beat them no matter what because they got Wato on the other side.
But do you think there's a chance, though, of people not working together well? Let's say it's Taiji and Despy. Like, what if they just are at each other's throats so much that Wato and Hiromu can take advantage of that?
That's your one out. And honestly, if you end up with heels versus baby faces, that's probably the best case scenario for a guy like Wato and Hiromu. But I don't know. That just seems too standard by the numbers. I feel like they got to make it even.
Or what if they want to hammer home the fact that the Wato win wasn't a fluke and Wato does pull another win over Ishimori?
They can try. It didn't work the first time. Maybe it'll stick the second time. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah. One other thing as we move on. The 7th match of the night. I love Gideon Gray.
Dude, Gideon Gray is the man. Newcomer of the year.
If you had asked me who do I prefer, Teton or Gideon Gray, I'm going to pick Gideon Gray.
Dude, Gideon Gray, he's hilarious. Great on the mic. Hilarious.
Let me put it to this way. I like Gideon Gray more than Aussie Open.
What?
I like him more than TJP. I like him more than Francesco Akira. I only put him under the original members of United Empire. And technically, he's always been a member of United Empire. He's the benefactor. He's
been pulling the strings this whole time.
He's the secret hand behind the power of the United Empire. He's their Don Callis.
Right.
Except he can take bumps.
Oh, man. But yeah, he was hilarious in this match. And I loved Naito throwing his cane and Naito putting his jacket on. Oh my gosh, that was peak comedy right there.
But that brings us to the main event of the evening as the House of Torture defended and retained their 6-man tag team titles, Evil Show Yujiro with Dick Togo. They defeated Hikuleo, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Ryosuke Taguchi with Jado, 21 minutes and 40 seconds. And Jeremy, what were your thoughts here on the main event?
Boy. This was, it was a peak House of Torture. And I know that we have said in the past that when you get more of House of Torture in a match, in a 6-man or a 8-man scenario, that you get a better match because there is less interference. And at the beginning of the match, they sent Dick Togo away earlier, but of course he came back. There was a ton of shenanigans and interference, and just one of the spots that I absolutely hate is the spot where a heel turns the referee's back and kind of forces the referee on the corner. I feel like doing that should just be a disqualification. And it was just so frustrating to see that again in this match with Yujiro having Red Shoes up in the corner with his back turned so that the cheating can happen. I'm like, why wouldn't Red Shoes just call a DQ right there? You're touching the referee. You're obstructing the referee's view. You know that they're cheating. To lead into that whole sequence with trying to hit with the wrench, which then led into the low blow spot on Hikuleo. It was just so much egregious cheating and making Red Shoes look dumb. I I just didn't enjoy it at all. It was kind of a flat finish.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think that this type of match where there's so much shenanigans and over the top selling and comedy from Taguchi and, nefarious, just outright blatant cheating from the heels and yada, yada, yada. That type of match is best suited in front of a crowd that can react. And I know, say 6, 7, 8 months ago, if they had to do this match in a Corkin Hall with just a clap crowd, it is what it is. But at this point, airing that match at the headline of a show on New Japan World when we're starting to get actual clap crowds and putting it in front of a non-clap crowd on a night like this was really a strange decision. I do see why they probably did it from a business perspective because it's a smaller, venue. Although I love the venue that they were running from. I don't know specifically what it was, but as far as like stature of the way that they showcase the Battle Autumn Tour shows, this was still kind of like a smaller show compared to like the Corkin shows, the one they're going to do in Osaka.
Right.
So I understand why they headlined it in that aspect, but this crowd couldn't react. So it's like you got a guy crotched and he's making the faces and yada yada, and the people can't do anything. You got, Taguchi doing all the butt humor and pulling down his pants, and there's just no reaction. And then you got these guys healing it up and cheating. And that's another thing too, like you mentioned with Red Shoes and all these other New Japan officials, they get away with being the biggest fucking idiots, right? And it's something we've always kind of known and accepted. But then, and I hate to do this, but you turn around and you look at the way that people talk about like the AEW referees like Bryce or Aubrey or whoever, and people are ruthless on those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not any worse than the New Japan referees.
Right. Red
People
Shoes.
love Red Shoes, and he's the worst of them.
Yes, dude, yeah. He's the senior official. He's the main event ref, and yeah, they make him the biggest clown out of all of them. Kento Sato, Marty Asami, like all those guys, they make him look so bad.
Right, and I mean, there's a fine line. I understand that there's a time and a place where the referee needs to be a stooge and all that sort of stuff, and they are a storytelling device to allow the heels to get heat. I get it, but it gets so egregious in New Japan, and it's something that has always existed, but with this House of Torture, it is just over the top. And we've made mention on this show plenty of times how these 6-man tags with the never openweight title for House of Torture, it's kind of like a nice change of pace and less, it's not as bad as the evil IWGP title run, So
Right, yeah.
But putting them in the main event, giving them 21 minutes and putting them in there with the ace and Hikuleo and the ball shots and the wrench shots and yada yada, it is just too much. Also, Taguchi does not give a fuck, bro. This guy's got so many holes in his
gear.
Tights and in his gear. He doesn't go and buy new ones. He doesn't get them fixed. He doesn't replace them. And maybe he's the smart man because, you might sit there and be like, all right, well, all these other people, like a Tony Nese, a guy who, like, let's face it, Tony Nese probably isn't very much higher up on the card in AEW than Taguchi is in New Japan. Different types of wrestlers, different, who knows what the future holds for them. But right now in 2022, they're probably at a similar station in life and they're similar, companies. But Tony Nese is going out there and he's spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on his gear.
Raw's gear.
He's got the rawest gear, and it's not getting him booked any higher, any more prominently, not making any more money. And you got Taguchi, who's been around forever, and he's like, fuck it. They're not going to push me. And just put on the same shit I've been having for like 4 years at this point.
I mean, yeah, since we've been doing the show, I'm pretty sure he's had the exact same gear.
No, he changes it. There's a few variations I've noticed, but the only reason I notice on him and not other people is because the holes. He literally works in gear that's got like rips and tears in it, and like when that happens to Kenny Omega or Tanahashi, they like at least have the decency to like change the gear out, Naito, whoever. But like Taguchi's like, nah, I'm gonna just keep wearing it. Like, and no one from New Japan says shit. Like, it's only a podcast like this. It's like, why is this man like literally working in holy like gear? This is terrible.
By the way, they were in the new Aomori Prefecture Sports Park Medea Arena.
They ran that same venue during Best Super Juniors, and I thought it was a really great venue. And they made mention of that on the commentary. I listened because I waited to watch the show with the English. By the way, Kevin, always great. And but yeah, man, I don't have much more to add to it. I didn't feel like the only thing that they did do good in the match was they made Hikuleo look pretty strong.
Yeah.
But they still kind of undermined that at the end. They made Tanahashi look terrible. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
The match it just wasn't for me. And like at this point too, I'm like, where do they go next?
Yeah, who knows? We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. It says, with 1 year of House of Torture being formed together as a sub-unit for Bullet Club, what grade would you give them? I would give them a B. I get that most of the time they cheat so much that it becomes go-away heat, and it's sad not to see the classic evil and show matches, but as heels, they play the role right, and many fans like us wonder how fans would react to them once Sharon would come back, and they got the heat on the first couple of shows where fans were able to cheer. What do you guys think?
That shit was in Corkin. That shit don't count.
The smarts.
Yeah, it's a smart crowd. It's like working in front of a PWG crowd. It's not the same thing at all. Especially since they weren't able to make noise for years and years. And then like they make noise the first night. People are like, oh, they got heat. Oh my God, they got heat. It worked. We weren't wrong all along. It's like, no, bro. Like, it's fucking Corkin. These are the same people that like will chant holy shit. The one place in Japan where they'll literally chant holy shit if they are given the chance to see something that's like
right.
Holy shit worthy.
They'll chant, this is awesome.
Yeah, they'll chant, this is awesome in Corkin. What are you talking about, bro? Here's what it comes down to for me. And I know I'm not usually the stars guy, but as we've said on the show, ratings and stars and takes and opinions are not a game. They're not a game. How many great 3.5+ star matches has any member of the House of Torture had in the past year? I'll wait.
Boy.
I don't think you can find one. And if you can find one, it's such small, dismal numbers. The fact of the matter is, hey, do they have an act that might get some quote-unquote heat? Sure. Maybe. We don't even actually really know because we've been in clap crowds for so long. But do we get good matches? Do we get programs that matter? Do we make money? Am I invested? Do I want to see these guys get comeuppance against? Like, at this point, I'm higher on Karl Anderson getting his comeuppance at Wrestle Kingdom than I am on Evil and Yujiro and Sho, who I used to call Shawn Michaels because I thought he was going to be this breakout star from his tag team.
Not no more.
I'd rather watch, bro, in 2022, I'd rather watch a Yo match than a Show match. And I don't even like Yo.
Yikes.
So I don't know what we're talking about here. I would give them an F for fucking terrible because they have been terrible. I'm sorry. They are not good. They're bad. They're the worst thing in New Japan, worse than Fale. Worse than anything in Bullet Club, the worst part of New Japan, the biggest, most terrible thing is House of Torture. And I'm not usually that guy that goes in hard on people like that. I feel like the last time I went in really hard on anything like this was Evil when he won the title the first time.
Yeah.
They suck.
I think I would go D-. Just because there have been a few little nuggets where we talked about, like those Corkin shows where they're getting the heat reactions. I think some of the stuff that they did with the Chaos team, with Yoshihashi and Goto, I feel like some of that stuff was okay.
What, like the dog cage matches?
Not the dog cage match. They had some other like this normal 6-man normal tag matches that I felt were like okay. And I feel like they've been in some more programs this year that were a little bit more tolerable. But overall, I mean, they are pretty awful as an act. I mean, to me, it's go away heat for me. Like, they come on the screen, and I'm like, okay, let's fast forward. Let me scroll on the phone. Let me put a load of laundry in. Like, these guys.
What kind of rating do you think the House of Torture as a collective unit has on Cage Match right now?
I'm gonna get.
And keep in mind, they've only existed for a year, so everything that's been rated is from the past year.
I'm gonna guess 5.
The House of Torture has a 1.21 rating on Cage Match. The average rating the average rating across the board is 1.13, but they got the round up to 1.21.
Oh my gosh.
That's 61 votes. And the comments are bad. Really, 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 really bad. There's a lot of 0.0 ratings. Here, actually, that's what tells you the truth about it. There's a couple 10s and a couple 9s. People that really love the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 35 0.0 ratings of people that have rated this group as a whole in the past year. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible act. I just don't see like the long-term like future for the group, and kind of what the plan is. I mean, I guess you can do it as more of an opener kind of thing, but
it was so interesting at first when there was this idea that we might end up with an Evil versus Jay White thing, and I think that was part of the idea, but it never materialized, just like all the other Bullet Club quote unquote civil wars.
But honestly, even that wasn't that interesting. Like, picture what a Evil House of Torture versus Jay White match would look like.
Jeremy, give me the book and I'll make it compelling.
I wish I could give you the book, but unfortunately, it's still Gato and Dick Togo and Jado who are like, let's get heat, brother. We need to get more heat, brother. And can you imagine the amount of run-ins and shenanigans in an Evil Jay White match?
I wonder what a Josh Smith promoted wrestling show would look like. It'd basically be New Japan. It'd be like a mix between Bloodsport and Smoky Mountain. Oh man. So all hail the 6-man tag team champions, House of Torture.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about some other Battle Autumn shows. The TV title tournament will resume this week, and we had a question.
Do you know what that feels like? Do you remember that time when Shawn Michaels wrestled Hulk Hogan and then showed up the night after on Raw and gave that like scathing promo?
You're talking about the SummerSlam match?
After the night after on Raw.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels was like, last night, Hulk Hogan was just too good for me. He was just... His catch can acumen. He was too swift. He was too strong, and he was too skilled and experienced for the Heartbreak Kid. But unfortunately, he's not here tonight, and I am, and the show keeps rolling on. Let's go. And he like literally just wrote off the entire loss and then moved right into a program with Chris Masters. And like, fuck that shit. Let's go.
He went right back to being a babyface after being a heel that whole feud.
He'd been a heel for months, and he was like, and then they turn him baby in seconds. And like that's how I feel like we watched this show, 6-man. All right, let's move it on. We got the TV title coming right up.
The TV title tournament will resume this week. We had a question from Rambo and Slam Pig. What has been your favorite TV title tournament match so far?
Sonata and Taichi.
Yeah, easily Sonata and Taichi. Those guys absolutely killed it. Banger of a main event. That was a really fun matchup.
I mean, you take the one guy that we love that when put in situations where he's required to showcase his strong style skills in Taichi, and then match him up with a guy that we think is technically incredible in Sonata, but wrestles for just far too long, and you force him to wrestle a 15-minute sprint. It's magic.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the shows coming up. So tomorrow, October 26th, we got a Battle Autumn show. Show open up with Kosei Fujita and Yuto Nakashima taking on the United Empire's Aaron Hanare and Gideon Gray. Then we'll have Alex Zane, David Finlay, and Tiger Mask taking on Taka Michinoku, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr. Hikuleo and Hiroshi Tanahashi will take on Dick Togo and Evil. Doki, El Desperado, and Taichi will take on Gedo, Kenta, and Taiji Shimori. Master Wato and Togi Makabe will take on Hiromu Takahashi and Sonata. Bushi, Tetsuya Naito, and Teton will take on Francisco Akira, Jeff Cobb, and TJP. Then in the semi-main event, we have another first-round NJPW World TV title tournament match as Toru Yano will take on the Great Okan. And then the main event will be the last first-round tournament match as Tomohiro Ishii takes on the son of Strong Style, Ren Narita.
Yeah, and a couple things with this card before we preview the World TV title tournament matches. We forgot to mention that Bushi and Teton have, in all of these preview matches, pretty much owned the United Empire team of Akira and TJP. So really kind of establishing the fact that like this new duo between Teton and Bushi like might potentially have Akira and TJP's number.
Yeah.
The other thing too, these two matches that are coming up here, Yano and Okan, Ishii and Narita, we saw preview matches of them play out over this past show that we just reviewed. So let's jump into this here. The first match of the night, Yano versus Great Okan. And this is one that really gives me pause because it's Yano, and Yano has never been known to be an Iron Man when it comes to wrestling. He's not someone who's going to go out there and give you even a 15-minute match. I can't remember the last time I saw a Toru Yano wrestle for 15 minutes. So on the one hand, he might be tailor-made for the TV title, tournament rule set. At the same time, I don't want to see Yano advance past Great Okan, and I kind of feel like bad that Okan's the guy that drew Yano. And this match might either be highly entertaining because I could see Okan being one of there's certain guys that just work really well with Yano in his comedy matches, whether it's ZSJ or Sonata or Ibushi or Kenny Omega. There's like a select few guys that just work that style really well with him. And then there's a lot of guys who don't. And I feel like Okan probably actually might be one of the guys that is able to comedically work with his timing and get something funny. But I don't know if I want to watch Toru Yano have funny matches in this TV title tournament, especially considering how stellar the tournament's been thus far.
Right. And I know Okan and Yano do have a history, so this will be their third match. So the first time they wrestled in the New Japan Cup, which Yano got the win there. That was the 2021 New Japan Cup. And then they had a match in the G1 this year, which Great Okan got his win back there.
I don't remember either of those matches. To me, if you told me just now this is the first time meeting between them, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. They never wrestled before.
Well,
and I've definitely seen those matches. I don't recall them whatsoever. Not a gimmick, for real. Shootsies.
The New Japan Cup match has a 4.40 on Cage Match.
Well, I mean, but it's a Yano match, so it's not like, I get it. They're not good.
And the G1 has a 3.75.
Yeah, they're not good at all.
So yeah.
But with how outrageous Great Okan's character has been recently, especially over the past 8 months, I could see them kind of developing, that natural sort of chemistry to have something that's memorable, if not, even if it's not like a quote unquote good match, it might be highly entertaining. But then again, it might not be. It's a Yano match, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, who knows? And the thing is, like you mentioned, we really haven't gotten a quick pinfall yet in this tournament. Like, I feel like most of the matches have been going around 14 minutes. You know, Sonata Taichi went 14:57 right up against the time limit. So I feel like you have to at some point do a match that ends in like 2 to 3 minutes, and Yano is the guy to do that with. And also you gotta think World Tag League is coming up, and I gotta think Okan and Cobb are gonna be in that, so you don't need Okan tied up in this tournament. So to me, that it's kind of screaming Yano wins. Plus, if Yano wins, and jump ahead a little bit here with Narita and Ishii, if Narita wins like everybody thinks he is, then you would have to put Narita up against Okan if Okan wins. And do you want to beat Okan with Narita? Do you want to beat Narita with Okan? Or can you just have Narita beat Yano?
That's assuming Narita's going through, but
right.
Same thing works with Ishii. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah, and they did beat Jeff Cobb earlier in the tournament.
Right.
The argument against that would be, do you want Great Okan and Jeff Cobb, the number one contenders to the tag team titles, both getting jobbed out quickly in the first round of a singles tournament? Does that hurt their credibility, even though these weren't tag team title matches? Is that not good for their reputation? On the Jeff Cobb side, it's Dunzo, and also it was Yoshihashi, and he kind of got a roll-up win, so...
Well, that's the other thing with Yano, it could probably be a roll-up 2 or a low blow kind of thing, and so it's an easy. Both of them have valid excuses for losing. You protect them with these wacky kind of roll-up losses, and then they move on to trying to get the belts from FTR.
Maybe you put Okan through and you make him the TV title champion.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah,
I don't know. You know what? I agree with you. I hate to say it, but like any other scenario, I would normally say Okan needs the win. But because World Tag League is around the corner, because we already, we'll get to this in the news, but because FTR is coming to Japan and everything like that, seems pretty clear to me that we're getting a Toru Yano win here. And we're going to wind up with him and Narita in a next round matchup. Yeah.
I'm with you. Like, I was watching that 6-man with Okan from that show we just reviewed. I'm like, man, he looks so awesome. Like the post-match promos, like his mannerism, his wrestling. Like I'm ready for him to get behind this guy fully. But yeah, I have a hard time seeing him get through here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. In a certain sense, I don't at all. Like, could I see Okan beating Yano? Absolutely. But then it's like, but then he needs to go through either Ishii and Narita, and then, further into the tournament, it's like, do you want to invest in this guy in a singles push at this current time when him and Cobb are very clearly getting ready to go on a tag team run together again, and certainly this company has never shied away from having double champions, but it just doesn't feel right for like the right timing for that, especially with the idea that a lot of people believe Narita is going on a run. And like you said, I don't know if hypothetically, if Narita is the guy that's going into the next round, do you want this returning young lion fresh off excursion to defeat, a guy that you're still building up in Okan? I don't know if that's what you want. So plus Yano, for a young guy returning, is a huge obstacle always. So I think Yano cheats, like you said, picks up the win, and we're off to the races.
Yeah. So then the main event with Ishii and Narita, like we talked about the preview match, like this is going to be an absolute banger. I think we're going to get, vibes of that great Ishii Shibata sprint that everybody loves. I think we're going to get something similar to that here. I think, if it's me, I'm going with Fred Narita. I know Ishii hasn't really done a lot as far as, results wise this year. I mean, he still had bangers, but I think, this is supposed to be a title that's going to be focused on some of the newer stars, younger stars. I go with Narita here.
I cannot wait for this match. This is the most anticipated match of the first round of this TV title tournament for me. And I believe this this show is a cheering crowd show, correct?
I believe it is, yes.
So,
Corkin.
I mean, even if they don't do the famous quote-unquote Ishii-Shibata match with the famous, jump-off spot where, Narita runs across the ring and, hits this guy with a single leg drop kick, I'm okay with it because you know why? Shibata and Ishii had a fucking ton of great matches that were incredible, and not just them. Throw Goto into the mix and any other number of strong style guys from that period. And in a certain sense, Narita's sort of a throwback to that style. So I'm loving the idea of Ishii and Narita. If they didn't pay a single homage to the previous matches between Shibata and Ishii, I'm sure it will be fine. I don't really care at this point. I just want to see Narita. And like I said on the show 2 weeks ago when I was talking to James, anytime you ask me who I want to see someone wrestle for the first time in New Japan, it's always going to be Ishii.
Mm-hmm.
So for Narita to return and face off against Ishii in a high-profile tournament first-round singles match, that's music to my ears. And I don't normally advocate for Tomohiro Ishii to lose, especially in a tournament like this, but it's a youth tournament. It's a return from excursion, and I think it's high time for them to push the young blood. So I'm ready for Narita to hit this man with the Narita special. 1, 2, 3, and we're off.
Yeah, I think that definitely needs to happen. We've been talking for a while now. We need to get a youth movement going in New Japan, and a lot of the guys from that, 2017, 2018 class are starting to come back. Hikuleo, Ren Narita. We're seeing what Shota Umino is doing. So a lot of these guys, Great Okan, a lot of these guys are starting to come back, starting to get established. So right now, we need to really start pushing a lot of these 2017, 2018 young lions, and I think Narita is a good step here.
Well, a youth movement is all well and good, but I'm for the violence movement. Let's bring some real to the New Japan, and the realness is Red Narita, the guy that we have been banking on since 2017.
Day one. You can go
since
back.
Day one.
You can go to the archive on this feed or the network feed, hear us review Narita and Yagi.
Bro, 2017, we're like, I kind of like Red Narita.
Bro, I will never forget being at your old apartment, watching Red Narita and the Yagi matches, and it's both of us just losing our minds on just how hard-hitting and violent those matches were, and just how awesome Narita was back then, 2017.
Now, we'll get to it later in the show, but you did watch the Kitamura matches we discussed, right?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was funny. Like, I rewatched that one match. We'll get to it later, but I was like, we really treated, at the time, this Young Lions Cup as, like, a big fucking deal. Like, we got together and watched the finals together like it was SummerSlam. They were in Shinjuku face, bro.
Man.
The guys from Tradition worked in the main event of the night. We got together to watch that show together.
We're like, big tournament, Young Lions Cup. Gotta get
and
high.
You know what's funny? That's not the only time we did that. 3 years ago, we did that for the other Young Lions Cup. We got together and watched actually watched the whole tournament together. Like, This is a very pro Young Lions podcast.
Yes,
always has been.
Yes, and always will be. Moving on, the next Battle Arm show will be on Thursday, October 27th. The full card, as of this recording, has not been released, but we do know there will be 2 world television title matches, the quarterfinals.
Never mind the fluff. Let's get to the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah, the quarterfinals will start. So we'll have Yoshihashi versus Evil, and David Finlay, the Rebel, versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Well, if there's anybody out there that can get a great singles performance out of Evil, especially like the House of Torture version of Evil, it is Yoshihashi. And I'm saying that because I know earlier I was mentioning that there have been few and far between great matches from guys from House of Torture, but The one caveat to that, and I guess I forgot to mention it earlier, every now and again in the G1, Evil does have a good match. And the few that I remember are with ZSJ and Yoshihashi.
Yeah.
So
didn't he have one with Kenta at one point, or no?
I don't know. But that's a match that I think is very interesting, and I'm assuming the winner of these two matches are going to face off against one another, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Let me pull up the bracket real quick to make sure that's accurate.
In the same respect, David Finlay, this is a guy that's surging off of a career high performance against Will Ospreay that we sang all the praises in the world about a few episodes ago. And then Zack Sabre Jr., who this tournament I think is tailor made for a guy like him, and he's just having an incredible year. So the winner of Evil and Yoshihashi will meet the winner of Finlay and Sabre. This is a really, really tough one to call for me. I think just because I see ZSJ going to the finals against the Narita, I'm going to call Zach versus Evil. I think I'm just going to go scratch on this one, I'm going to go with David Finlay versus Evil. So again, I think using the World Tag League logic, I'm pretty sure Dangerous Tekkers will probably be in World Tag League, so I don't think you need to tie Zach up in this tournament. I know a lot of people have been fantasy booking Zach and Narita as the finals, which makes a ton of sense with the whole Shibata tie-in with both those guys. But at the same point, you got to look at what Dave Finlay's done this year. He's coming off a huge momentum off the Will Ospreay match. And I think it's time to capitalize with this guy, do something with this guy. And so what better way than to give Dave Finlay something than to get like an upset win over Zack Sabre here? That's a bold statement. And I can't say that there's very much wrong with it. I mean, I think that that's definitely a way that they could go, and it makes all the sense in the world. Here's the one thing I would say against it, though. The semifinals of this tournament are pretty much being paid off on November 5th, right? Yes. And finals at Wrestle Kingdom. Right. So there's a big jump between the semifinals being on November 5th, and then you got a whole 2 months, essentially, until the finals actually take place on January 4th. That being said, hypothetically, if you put Zach all the way to the finals, hypothetically, and he loses, then a couple weeks later he can be in the World Tag League, and he's no worse for the wear or whatever, Right, you're pushing to the semifinals, you mean? I would push him through, you push him through. Actually, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. You push him through to the semifinals, and then a few weeks later he's in World Tag League, and he can, after every match, cut promos about how they're going to win World Tag League, and he's also going to win the TV title in the finals. And truth be told, I don't think Dangerous Tekkers are winning World Tag League this year. I think that they've already kind of flirted with the finals and everything like that in the past. So I don't see any reason to believe that they're going through to the finals to wrestle FTR or Cobb and O'Connor or anything like that. Is that how you see it going? I'm not sure. I think FTR is going to be pretty much out of the picture. I think, at least for the tag team title, just the way stuff has been going. Obviously, Cobb and O'Connor, I think, are going to be in that title mix, whether they're going to be the champions, win World Tag League, or getting at some kind of three-way tie. I think they're going to be involved. And depending on whether or not FTR is involved, I feel like Dangerous Tekkers is like the one team that Cobb and O'Connor really haven't faced a lot. And it's kind of a fresh matchup. So I could see that being the Wrestle Kingdom tag team title match. But FTR, they're coming on November 5th, but they're not defending the titles against Cobb and O'Connor to the best of our knowledge right now, are they? Well, as of right now, a match has not been announced. They cut a promo asking for New Japan to give them their best team to challenge. So I'm assuming it's going to be FTR versus Cobb and O'Connor, and Cobb and O'Connor are going to win. I think they're going to defend the titles one time there and then come back and lose the belt in the Dome on January 4th. Okay. Yeah. And I think Cobb and O'Connor are going to win World Tag League and challenge for the titles. That's my booking. So that's where some of my thinking is.
The one thing, though, also with World Tag League being single block again, though, I can see some kind of funky situation where we get a third team thrown in based off of multiple teams being tied at the top.
Don't wish that kind of negativity on me.
I'm not wishing, dude. I'm just using previous knowledge, previous facts of what New Japan does with these single blocks. They use them as
precedent.
Yeah, they use it as an opportunity to throw multiple teams in a situation.
I will say this: if David Finlay were to go through and go to the finals against Ren Narita, I would find that very difficult to call as to who I think would win that match.
Yeah, see, it's unpredictable. It's a fresh matchup, and it's only 15 minutes of time that you're giving to them on Wrestle Kingdom. I feel like you can give that match the perfect timing for that matchup. I don't feel it takes away from anybody else, and then you can throw Dangerous Record. You can throw Zach in a tag match, or you can find something else for Zach to do. Who knows? Maybe you want to bring back the Rev Pro British title. Bring Ricky Knight Jr. over.
Well, I said this a few weeks ago. Was like my initial knee-jerk reaction is ZSJ Narita. That's the finals. But as I've looked at the tournament more holistically, I'm like, Evil's in there. David Finlay's in there. Hard to call right now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more unpredictable than it maybe looked at first glance.
Right.
But so I mean, your prediction is Dave Finlay versus Evil.
Yeah, and then I think that's a good match for Finlay to kind of overcome the shenanigans of House of Torture and Evil to get on to the next round from there.
So you're kind of giving this like a New Japan Cup style of booking. I mean, you're having two compelling narratives meet at the top. And I feel personally, if Narita is going to win, they need to have something that's a little bit more old hat, like a ZSJ go through, so that because he's got so much established tournament wins and everything, he doesn't need a compelling storyline behind him. He's the big boss at the end.
Yeah,
my only
ZSJ
can overcome, or that Narita can overcome.
My only thing is, would they let Narita overcome Sabre?
That is a tough call. Yeah, that's a real. But then again, it's only 15 minutes.
Right. I don't know.
We don't know what's going to happen in the finals because the whole tournament's coin flip. But are they going to determine the finals of the tournament on a coin flip? What happens if they go to a draw?
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, because that would be dumb. And
how? Okay, let me give you an example. Or just here's my booking. Those two guys go to the finals, Wrestle Kingdom. They go the full 15 minutes, right? And then, boom, we get the WrestleMania 12. It looks like it's done, but then all of a sudden, Shibata comes down the aisle and he says, give these dudes
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes, or he says they're going to sudden death overtime. No time limit. And then, and then they have to finish it in the next 5 minutes. That would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, if they're going to do an angle like that, albeit, but I feel like, especially with a one-night card, you don't have a lot of wiggle room to be doing a lot of extra stuff like they've done the last couple of years. So I feel like I don't think they would let Narita beat Sabre at Wrestle Kingdom for this. So I think Narita beating...
You got to beat him.
I feel like Finlay is an opponent that Narita could beat.
Bro, I feel like Finlay's a guy that Narita needs to lose to. I know as weird as that sounds, I'm kind of more nervous about him facing like a David Finlay than I am a ZSJ.
That's interesting.
Well, I feel like ZSJ is so established, he can handle the loss, but like David Finlay really can't handle the loss. He's a guy that just recently got established at that level, and if they go on that level, he needs to win. He needs to beat Narita. Narita needs to be the guy chasing him down the line, which I don't want. I want Narita to be established. Let's have David Finlay chase him a little bit down the line. You know what I mean? I'm fine with that.
All right, so you got Evil and Sabre. I got Evil and Finlay.
Yeah, but it's all knee-jerk. I don't really know. You've kind of convinced me pretty strongly. Now I'm nervous.
So then moving on, October 30th, we'll have more tournament action. The winner of Ishii and Narita will face the winner of Yano and Okan. So I think we're both thinking Narita versus Yano there, right?
I believe it's going to be Narita versus Yano. Although this is a tougher tournament to call than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
For all the there's not very many people under 30 naysayers. This is a pretty good tournament.
Yeah. And then the other tournament match would be Sonata versus Kenta.
That match Kenta had with Goto, I loved, and the match Sonata had with Taichi, I loved. I don't know how I'm going to feel about Sonata versus Kenta, but
I think it all depends which Sonata and which Kenta we get. If we get the guys that were in the previous matches, if we get the Sonata who faced Taichi and we get the Kenta that faced Goto, I think we could have a banger here.
Well, I don't know what a Sonata Kenta match even looks like. I can't recall them ever working together. I'm sure they have, but not to any outstanding measure in my book.
Yeah.
And then again, I think we're both booking Narita to go all the way through and beat Yano. So I'm all for Kenta and Narita.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds great.
Let's have, and I've never been a Sonata lover anyway, so let's have Kenta knock this dude's head off, put him in the game over, whatever, and let's get Kenta and Narita. Let's do that. I'm all for that.
Dude, I'm all for that. Again, with the World Tag League, thing, I think Sonata will probably be in Tag League with maybe Shingo.
I was thinking about this past earlier today too. I don't know if we really mentioned how awesome the hard way blood with Kenta and Goto actually was.
Oh yeah, that was dope.
Yeah, we had a guest last week, Bash. Thank you for coming on, Bash. You did a great job. But sometimes when we have a guest, I lose track of the things I want to remember to talk about. And I was I wanted to make mention of how awesome the blood in that. I know blood isn't always great, but because it's so sparse in New Japan, I was fuck, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it elevated that match. You already had the urgency of the 15 minutes, and then the blood and this how dangerous the match was getting. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think Narita and Kenta is the best stylistic matchup here. I guess Narita and Sonata would be a good
fuck that, because Sonata's gonna roll him up in a a 1970s World of Sports role, and he's gonna pin him, and then we're gonna wind up with Sonata versus Dave Finlay. I don't want that shit. No offense to either man, but that just doesn't sound fun to me. I want Narita against whoever. So
yeah,
let's Kenta, do us a favor, get Sonata out of the way. And let's get this hard striking, also, and this just solidifies it more. I hadn't thought of this. It's coming to me this is an epiphany from on high. But who is Narita's, sensei?
Shibata.
Come on.
Well, let's
Kenta, Shibata.
Yeah.
Narita. We never did get that payoff to that whole entire long drawn out angle. So,
yeah.
Let's get that going here.
Let's run it. I can
run it.
I can imagine the promos Kenta's going to cut to help juice this match up.
Shibata, you got to show up on 11-5. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, let's
to see this man take down your arch nemesis, former best friend, BFF. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah. So then moving over to New Japan of America on...
I know that we were a little bit harsh on Gato this earlier in the episode about handing me the book away from Gato, but he might still know what he's doing, because look at this. He's got Shibata's boy taking on, Kenta. That sounds awesome.
This is the one thing he booked without Jado or Dick Togo. He's like, no, guys, I got this one. I don't need your... I got this one figured out already. So moving over to New Japan of America on Thursday, October 27th, we have the night before Rumble on 44th Street, a Halloween special, which is going to be a complete mystery card. We know on the poster there was a lot of silhouettes of, advertised mystery wrestlers that will be at the card. So we have no idea what this card's going to be.
Did you notice something? After I don't want to like take all the credit, but like, I know that our show, our Twitter account isn't like the most important thing on the internet. Like, I have no illusions about that, but I will tell you this. There's no denying that members of New Japan's office are aware of the things we post and the things we share, specifically us.
Mm-hmm.
And I did post a copy of the original poster that they had that had both Bobby Fish and Amazing Red's silhouettes in the poster. And ever since I posted that, they have never posted
they changed
original poster.
They changed it up.
They completely, I think there was one time they did, but for the most part, they did the shortened, abbreviated version of that poster where it just has that one figure in the back where it kind of looks like it's Mox, but I can't definitively say that. But like, they got rid of the ones that were Amazing Red and Bobby Fish, maybe because I feel like it might be because I posted a picture where it was like, it's clearly these two guys.
Right, and I think the Mox thing would make sense based off of what we're hearing on the reports of his new AW contract. Like, he's not going to be advertised at a lot of indie events he does because he wants to kind of have fun. Doesn't want the pressure to be on him to kind of draw or be the big main event. And so I think it could be that kind of thing we're seeing where he's unadvertised because they don't want people to expect him or expect a certain version of Jon Moxley, and it's going to be a nice surprise.
There's a part of me though that's like, okay, that's all well and good, but like, is that prudent or smart on New Japan's part to have one of the biggest draws in North America and not advertise him for the show that you're going to have him on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the tickets were for the first night. I mean, I know the second night sold out immediately, and I think the first night was close to selling out. So they were super small. If they were in a bigger venue, I would say definitely. Because it's so small, I'm like,
Yeah, and that's a whole nother discourse. We discussed that previously, so I don't need to jump into the whole guys, he should have booked a bigger venue argument. But putting that aside, this show probably is going to be very fun. We've seen in the past in Japan where when these guys are doing Halloween-themed shows, they dress up in all sorts of crazy costumes. We get crazy matches that we're not used to having. And then the idea that there could be surprises, and I know that I posted that poster that had the silhouettes of Amazing Red and Bobby Fish on them based on the previous New Japan renders they had. That doesn't mean that that's who's actually showing up. That just means that that's what I saw on the poster. Doesn't mean that they were actually physically advertising those guys. I think that those could have just been, they
could have just grabbed, like, hey, we need some silhouettes. Let's just grab some random.
Exactly. So we don't really know who's showing up on that show, but it's New Japan. It's New Japan of America. I'm sure they're going to do really fun, exciting, and, cool stuff for that show. So, plus we've seen guys dress up and do all sorts of wacky stuff at Halloween in the past. So I'm sure we'll get some of that fun shenanigans too.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, though, the night before, you fucking love The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I feel like they're kind of like riffing on that a little bit. And I've never asked you, why do you love The Nightmare Before Christmas? We live together, and I know you love this fucking movie. But why do you like that movie so much?
I don't know, man. Just something from childhood. It was something I watched as a kid, and I just really enjoyed as a kid, and it's just kind of stuck with me. I don't know. I just really like it.
Yeah, that's like the most like devilish thing that you're into is Nightmare Before Christmas.
I don't mess with those evil spirits, man.
The only evil things that you fuck with is like Nightmare Before Christmas and like Crow Sting, and that's about it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. But yeah, so this show is going to be a mystery vortex. We have nothing announced. We have no talent announced aside from a couple names that were on the poster, but we really don't know what's happening on that show. But the next night is Rumble on 44th Street.
Yep. So that'll be Friday, October 28th. We'll have the Chaos team of our good friend Rocky Romero teaming up with Yo to take on the House of Torture team of Sho and Yujiro Takahashi. Then we'll have the Friends of John Moxley, Homicide, Shota Umino, and Wheeler, Utah. They will take on the filthy team of Jarrell Nelson, Royce Isaacs, and Filthy Tom Lawler. We'll have Clark Connors returning from injury to take on Minoru Suzuki. We'll have the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team titles on the line as Aussie Open defends against Kevin Knight and the DKC and the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Then the KOPW Provisional title will be on the line in a New York City street fight as Shingo Takagi defends against El Phantasmo. And then we'll have Eddie Kingston and Kazuchika Okada teaming up to take on the Bullet Club team of Switchblade, Jay White, and Rock Hard Juice Robinson.
Yeah, so this is an interesting show. A lot of domestic names. I would say of all of the, past years, New Japan of America pay-per-views, this might be the most authentically domestic New Japan show or series of shows that we've seen.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff here. So the first match, we got Rocky and Yo. It's almost like a little reunion of Roppongi 3K.
Right.
Taking on Sho and Yujiro. So I don't know. That sounds like a...
Is this the first time Rocky has faced off against Sho since the turn?
I don't know if that's the case, but I can't recall any time that Rocky and Yo faced off against Sho. So you think in America there's going to be a Roppongi 3K chant?
Maybe. And maybe we're going to get Rocky and Yo as one of the teams in the Junior Tag League.
Oh, that's a possibility, yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, if that were the case, I would probably have Rocky and Yo go over. Plus, House of Torture is not so hot in America anyway. So maybe you start the show off on a good note and you put over Rocky and Yo. I don't know.
Yeah. I would go Rocky and Yo going over. The next match, I feel like the biggest star in the business, Will Utah, gotta get a big win here on this show.
I thought you were gonna say
Homicide.
I was like, what business we talk about? No, it's an interesting one. I mean, Jarrell Nelson's right there for the beating, right?
Yeah. He's kind of been the pin eater on that unit. So yeah, either have Utah or Umino get the pinfall there.
I mean, if there were someone to take a pinfall on the babyface side, I mean, it's probably either Homicide or Umino. It's probably not Wheeler Utah, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So, but that should be fun.
Yeah. Then Suzuki and Connors. I feel like Connor needs a big win returning from injury and kind of to pick back up the momentum he built after Forbidden Door. But I don't know. Beating Suzuki is a tough task.
I forgot about all that stuff with Forbidden Door. Like, that's how long ago it's been. But glad to see that Clark Connors is returning, and this is an awesome return match for him. There's a part of me that agrees with you. There's another part of me that's like, it's Minoru Suzuki in America. They might just have him win because that's what they do,
Yeah.
So, but I'll ride with you. I think Clark Connors should pick up that win there. In the past, it didn't help other people to pick up those wins, but I won't. Never mind. I was going to make a joke. I'm not going to go down that way.
Then the strong openweight tag team titles. I feel like Kevin Knight and DKC are getting kind of robbed here. These guys have been picking up wins on strong, and out of nowhere, the Machine Guns just come in and get thrown in here.
Yeah, but I mean, the Machine Guns have tenure, and Kevin Knight and the DKC are just young boys. So it's taken them all this time just to get to the level that Motor City Machine Guns already just sit at.
Yeah,
perpetually. I do think this. I think Aussie Open are dropping the strong openweight tag team titles, and I feel like the whole purpose of this match was to get DKC and Kevin Knight in the match so they could lose to the Motor City Machine Guns so that Aussie Open can say we never actually lost the belts while still dropping them.
And then you think they go to World Tag League?
Titleless. Had you not thought of that?
Honestly, I had not. Like, I figured that they would be in tag league, but I hadn't thought about them dropping the titles.
Well, why are they doing a triple threat with young lions that can easily take the pinfall at all? Like, it's a dead giveaway.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't believe you never thought of this.
Yeah, now that you say it, yeah. That's going to be pretty crazy. Machine Guns as a strong tag team champion. That's going to be pretty cool.
Well, the strong titles have already showed up in Impact anyways.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be down for more Sabin and Shelley on New Japan Strong. And again, I mean, Machine Guns are another team that I feel like they could be in the Junior Tag League. But I don't know if you want them as strong champions in the Junior Tag League.
Why not?
I mean, I guess you could, yeah.
You could, easily.
Yeah. But yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So, yeah, Machine Guns. And that would be a huge kind of upset surprise, too. So
I don't think it's that surprising. They put in those black trunk dudes, and I was like, oh, they're losing.
But I mean,
switching the titles.
I mean, Aussie Open could easily pin those guys too, and retain and not pin the Guns.
Nah, they only put the young lions in this match specifically so the Machine Guns could win and not pin Aussie Open.
I mean, yeah. Now you say, I mean, it makes a ton of sense.
I would be shocked if I was wrong. Like, if you gave me the choice about whether or not I should put my entire life savings on the outcome of this match or not, I would take those odds. I would risk it all. All of it. Everything.
Oh, man. So the KOPW Street Fight here rematch from Declaration of Power, where Shingo defeated El Phantasmo, but of course ELP got some comeuppance, and with the big low blow towards the end, he broke the trophy. So Shingo wants a little revenge. We've seen this rivalry get violent in Japan. A lot of DQs and multi-mans, a lot of weapons being used. So they're finally going to get to officially use weapons here in this street fight.
I have a strange feeling that this is not the final blow-off between these two guys, that we might get another match in the series.
Yeah.
For that reason, I think ELP might win.
Yeah, I think ELP is a good option to win too. I don't think it makes a ton of sense that you have him eat 2 losses in a row. So yeah, I could definitely see ELP getting the win here, and then they could do either Osaka November 5th do a rubber match, or they can maybe push the rubber match to Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, the KOPW title has to be defended at the end of the year to satisfy the true championship, remember?
Right, yeah.
So there's that aspect too.
Yeah.
But then again, it does beg the question, what do these guys do at Wrestle Kingdom? It feels like anyone tied to KO, and you and I guess we never thought about this when they first initially introduced the title. But when you think about the rules, that the only true champion is the guy who's standing at the end of the year with the title. He's the guy that gets crowned the KOPW champion. Considering their calendar and how everything cuts off just before January 4th, this was always destined to be like a super low mid-card title just based off of that one designation, because where else would they have that title match other than Road to Tokyo Dome?
Right, yeah.
It actually puts you at a disadvantage to have it going into January 4th, because it's not typically a title that's defended on a prominent level on January 4th, because the title's being decided a few days prior to that. It's really weird when you think about it under those terms.
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah, now that you say that, it's like, yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense where it's like kind of this mid-card, low-card kind of thing.
Yeah, even, I mean, taking the whole aspect of people voting and there being stipulations aside, the fact that it pays off on 12/31, based on their calendar, it automatically makes it a mid-card title.
Yeah.
How do you build a program for 1/4 if the blow off to all your programs is 12/31?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm like, what do Shingo? Is there a way we can get the title off Shingo and ELP before January, so we don't have to worry about what they're doing in the Dome?
Well, I mean, even if one of them ends up as the KOPW, I mean, you have to determine the new first provisional for 2023, so you could have those two guys be the first two competing to establish the first, the provisional 2023 KOPW champion.
if I was the booker, I would have one of these guys, whichever, end the year as the champion, quote unquote, and then during the new provisional Rambo, which is what it probably will be, I'd put neither of them in it. I would move the program away from KOPW altogether and let like the all the underling guys just fight for that shit.
But after that, I don't know what those guys do then. Like,
I would make that like the de facto number one contender match for the IWGP title. You know how they always have that one non-title match that matters a lot?
Yeah.
I would just turn Shingo and ELP into that match.
Yeah, you could do that.
But then again, like, are we going to see these guys wrestle like 4 times, 5 times in that short of a span of time?
I mean, it's unlikely, but I mean, they could do it.
Because this match here is going to be number 3.
Yeah.
After the first G1 match.
Right, yeah. Which is, it's very unrare to have that many singles matches in New Japan in that a short of a time span.
Right. Who won the Wrestle Kingdom match? Or, I'm sorry, the G1 match. It was ELP.
Phantasmo, yeah.
So maybe by that logic, this is the trilogy match. We're looking at it wrong.
Yeah, maybe this is the blow off. I mean, it is a street fight. Yeah, and you have the big match. ELP wins, and then I think Shingo's going to do tag league with Sonata. So then you kind of shift Shingo's focus that way.
Huh. I wonder what ELP is going to be doing during that time.
Who knows?
Tagging with Yujiro.
Oh boy. And the what it looks like is the main event with Eddie Kingston and Okada against Jay White and Juice Robinson.
Look at here. The sons of Baba and Inoki teaming up to take on Jay White and Juice Robinson, the Foreigners. If there was not a more perfect BI platoon match, Eddie Kingston, he walks the King's Road. Okada, he represents strong style. He wears the robe. Makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah. This should be a fun tag team matchup here. Also, it's a little preview for January 4th with Okada and Jay White. I mean, with Juice, Juice is, screams pin eater to me. So easily see him either getting pinned by Eddie Kingston or Okada here.
I hate to say that that's the case because earlier in the year when they returned Juice to the company and gave him the new gimmick, it didn't feel like that was going to be the way things shook out. But, could Kingston eat like a Blade Runner or whatever it's called and lose? Yeah, probably. But then again, it's like with Tony Khan and everything like that, they're probably just going to have Juice lose.
Right. And it's in Eddie Kingston's hometown in New York.
Right. But at the same time, some of this stuff seems weird because previously when Jay was cutting his promo at Strong, it seemed like they were setting up a singles match between him and Eddie Kingston as opposed to, this tag preview deal or whatever. And I'm not complaining about this necessarily, but it did seem like they were trying to run some sort of program between Eddie and Jay on possibly Strong or one of these pay-per-views.
Yeah, maybe TK stepped in and was like, "Hold on a minute, player. Let's make this a tag team match."
You're gonna go, yeah, we're gonna make it a tag team match. I was about to say you're about to go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker.
Holla, holla, holla.
Oh man. But yeah, on paper that looks like a pretty good show. I will tell you this. I don't know if any of this, even though I was like, hey, this is the most authentically domestic New Japan show. What I meant by that was like there's a lot of domestic talent, but this doesn't look like the most appealing show of all the pay-per-views they've done. The only thing that kind of sells it for me is the idea that you can get a bundle for a reduced price to get both nights.
Right. Yeah, both these shows are on Fight TV for the English commentary. Japanese commentary will be available on NJPW World, but of course you have to be in Japan or get some kind of VPN gimmick to make your computer think you're in Japan to watch it on New Japan World.
Oh, really? I seriously thought I could just watch it in Japanese on New Japan World.
I feel like they geo-blocked it because they want the U.S. fan base to order it from Fight TV.
You're probably right. I just thought that I could do that. Yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing I was mentioning though, is the fact that you can get a bundle is kind of cool in a certain sense, but just on their own, these cards don't look like something that like I really, really, really want to go out of my way to spend a lot of money to see necessarily, especially compared to some of the other New Japan of USA pay-per-views over the past year.
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the other pay-per-views, Capital Collision, when you say Riot, were like stronger cards compared to this. So
yeah.
But I mean, there's some fun matchups here and some interesting stuff that should take place. So overall, should be 2 fun shows here for New Japan of America.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. Music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
Ya llegaron los ahorros y estilos de otoño a JCPenney, con hasta 50% de descuento en nuestra venta del hogar más grande de la temporada y ahorra 35% extra con tu cupón. Además, ahorra 40% en ropa de invierno para toda la familia y 20% en juguetes y disfraces Disney. Compra con estilo, JCPenney. Ofertas y cupón válido hasta el 31 de octubre en selección de estilos. Apliquen exclusiones. La temporada se refiere al periodo del 31 de julio al 31 de octubre. Disney se excluye de los cupones. Detalles en la tienda jcp.com.
All right, now let's talk about New Japan Strong. This past week, we had the Autumn Action tour continuing. Show opened up. We had the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs defeating Greg Sharp and Jacob Austin Young. Then we had Yuya Uemura defeating the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, 9 minutes and 48 seconds. And then in the main event, Shingo Takagi defeated our good friend Rocky Romero in a awesome main event.
Yeah, so this was a pretty enjoyable show. I mean, the opening match, West Coast Wrecking Crew versus Greg Sharp and Jacob Austin Young. I was not familiar with those 2 new youngcomers, or young newcomers, but they were pretty impressive. I mean, there wasn't a lot there that stood out to me to where I'm like, these guys need to return, they need to sign them or anything like that. But they definitely showed that they could hang with an established crew like WCWC.
Yeah.
But
and, both these guys, I said that they were discovered from one of the LA Dojo tryout seminar things. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. I didn't even pick up on that, to be honest with you. But I'd see no reason to not bring them back in the future, but so far they still, even though they're impressive, they're kind of just like a little green. There wasn't like a lot to dive into when it comes to character and everything like that. But West Coast Wrecking Crew, they've been, recently defeated by Aussie Open and sort of needed to rebound, pick up a big win on screen to kind of get them back in the W column. And that's sort of what this match was here.
Yeah. Then Uemura and Daniels got a great video package kind of highlighting the history of this rivalry, starting with Daniels picking Uemura to replace Carl Fredericks in the tag team tournament, and then the big upset when they got over TMDK, and then they failed to beat Aussie Open, and that was Uemura's fault, and then they had another match up against Bad Dude Tito and Shane Hayes, and then Daniels lost due to miscommunication with him and Uemura, which caused the whole turn on them. And so that was a great video package leading to a very intense matchup. Uemura came out here, House of Fire, super intense, pushing the ref, coming for Daniels' throat. And in the end, he was able to defeat Daniels, but then post-match, Daniels attacked him, gave him the Angel's wings on a steel chair, and it looks like it's some kind of injury angle here.
Yeah. let me ask you this, Jeremy. There's a couple really popular and famous undressings that take place in New Japan. You got Taichi ripping off his pants. You got Okada revealing that he's still in the shorts and no longer in the long boys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Naito just taking his damn time in his suit before every single match. And then finally you got Yuya Uemura on Strong ripping off the trunks with the couple little stripes that correspond in some way to to the fallen angel Christopher Daniels, and using those shorts or those tights to or trunks to choke and also, you know, put his junk in the dude's face. Like, of those four, which do you prefer?
I don't know. Probably the Taichi one's probably my favorite, but this one was like unexpected. Like, because Uemura was a madman in this match, and he just ripped his tights. I'm like, wait, whoa, what are you doing?
It's like, is this guy getting undressed? What's going on?
Like, hold on, pal. But yeah, those he was wearing the trunks that Daniels gave him so they could have matching gear in the tournament. He pulled that off. He had the regular Young Lions gear underneath that, and yeah, he choked Daniels with that. So kind of a cool touch there if you caught on that or were paying attention to the feud.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that Uemura ended up defeating Daniels was going for the Angel's wings, and he was able to counter that into a pinning, you know, combination, and sort of speaks to the idea that these two guys, through the fact that they're teaming together, that there's a familiarity there, and sort of like he studied Daniels, and he knew how to basically counter his finisher there, and something that I don't think Daniels was aware of, and it caught him off guard and was sort of the difference maker, and it kind of embarrassed him, which is one of the reasons why I feel like Daniels went out of his way to try and injure Yuya Uemura at the end of the match.
Yeah. And after this too, we did get a weird tweet from Uemura saying, you know, buy New Japan, which we had a question here from Rambo and Slam Pigs is, do you have any news or updates of the buy New Japan tweet that Uemura sent? Is this a reference to him leaving the promotion, moving on to an excursion outside of the LA Dojo Strong, or just a funky mistranslation? Losing him would be an awful shame.
Well, I can say I have not heard anything about him leaving the company, and I'd find that very hard to believe if that was the case.
Yeah, I know he's also been doing stuff on Impact. He is in the X Division tournament to crown a new champion. So I know he's doing work there. So I don't know if Impact going to become his new kind of excursion spot, or maybe they are going to send him off to Rev Pro or CMLL, or who knows? Maybe he's coming back early to Japan. Who knows?
Well, we've seen guys that are on excursion go from one place to another place during their excursion, just depending. So, I mean, that's not entirely impossible.
Yeah. But I don't think he's leaving the company at all.
No, I highly doubt it. As far as what the tweet meant, I think it could have been a weird mistranslation, honestly. I don't know. I guess it will depend on whether or not we see you more pop up on more Strong shows going forward.
Yeah. Then the main event, Shingo and Rocky. You sent out a tweet from our account about how awesome this match is and how people have been sleeping on it. I mean, I feel like people sleep on Strong altogether, but yeah.
Rocky actually paid me to put that tweet out there.
Yeah.
I just figured we could use the income, so
yeah, I saw him send out, the praying hands responding to that tweet. The thank you, brother.
That was him selling. It was prearranged. Inside job. No, I'm just playing. Obviously, we would never do that. Call us if you want to do that, though. But we would never do that. No, but in all seriousness, I watched that match and I was blown away. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not telling you it was a very, very, very. I kind of rate TV matches differently than, say, like your pay-per-view or live event sort of match. Mm-hmm. I just kind of judge them a little differently. And I felt like this was a really incredible TV match. And that's taking nothing away from it. Overall, it was a great match too. But when you put it in the confines of like a 1 hour TV show, there's very few strong main events that I think are on the same level as Rocky and Shingo. And it was kind of cool to just see them go out there and just have like essentially a babyface match in the main event.
Yeah. I thought the match was awesome, a lot of fun. The one thing that I was a little annoyed by was just the lack of crowd response. I mean, Shingo, former IWGP World Champion, carried the company on his back in 2021. Rocky Romero, you know, the spine, the backbone of New Japan Strong, and I felt the crowd reactions were a little mild for these guys.
Yeah, that was the only thing I didn't like about it as well. And that's why I sent the tweet out. I was surprised I hadn't heard more about this particular match on, just social media in general, as opposed to some of the other, like Narita's last match with Juice, or even the Christopher Daniels Uemura match from the same show, which, was also good. But I was surprised I hadn't heard anything anywhere about this. And this is probably one of the, I don't want to overblow it here. I'm not telling you this is a match of the year contender, but for Strong as a show, this is one of the best main events they've ever produced. Period. I mean, it was fantastic. It was like a really, really strong, like Super Juniors night, style match in the middle of the card.
Yeah. And I think it goes to show too, with the lack of, talk about it and just the crowd that was there. Like the strong crowds, you just don't know what you're going to get. And it's clear that the strong crowds are not just NJPW fans. It seems like it's just that city's like wrestling fans who are looking for a good show. There might be some familiar names on the card. And so they're going to go, that they know who Christopher Daniels is and some of these other guys where they're going to go. And they might not be the biggest New Japan fans, because you would think if it was a fully New Japan fan base, they would lose their minds for Shingo Takagi for rare U.S. appearance walking out.
That's true. There's also the possibility that maybe the crowds are still majority New Japan, like, viewing audience, but they're just not that hot on the product right now.
Yeah.
That's also possible.
Yeah, it could be. But overall, yes, a really fun main event with, Rocky being overpowered by Shingo a lot of the match, and Rocky kind of having to step up and do some strong style with Shingo, use his submission game to kind of work on the arms to try and prevent the laugh the dragon and the Made in Japan.
He really had Shingo like reeling all the way through the last stanza, and then out of nowhere, like Shingo just catches him and Last of the Dragon, which was kind of crazy. I loved that they had that like high-paced, fast, action pace, closing stanza of the match, where that's something that a lot of New Japan at its peak, we used to talk about that, about how the matches just had stellar, like, final, like, 5-minute stretches. And a lot of New Japan's matches recently haven't had that same quality, and this kind of was a throwback in that respect as well.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a really fun main event. I think people should go out of their way to watch this. I mean, Strong, it's a pretty solid 1-hour show, and the production for this tour has looked pretty good.
It's been better, yeah.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. This tour has been good. So next Saturday, Autumn Action will continue. We'll have the Trust Buster, Arya Daivari, taking on Kevin Knight. Blake Christian and Mascot Dorada will take on Mystico and Alex Zane, which they did a pretty funny promo with Mystico and Zane, where Mystico's like speaking all in Spanish, and Zane's like, yeah. What he said.
It was like, exactly.
Then the main event, Tom on Tom Violence, Tomohiro Ishii versus Filthy Tom Lawler.
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So moving on, the IWGP Women's Championship Tournament Finals are set. So Mayu Iwatani will be facing Kairi to determine the first ever IWGP Women's Champion. They will meet in the finals at NJPW Cross Stardom historic crossover on November 20th from Tokyo's Araki Arena. Iwatani defeated Utami, and Kairi defeated Jazzy Gabbert in the tournament finals this past Sunday from the first night of the Goddess of Stardom Tag League 2022. This will be the 6th time that these two have met in singles competition. The last time was 2017, when Iwatani defeated Kairi to win the Wonder of Stardom title, and Iwatani leads their all-time head-to-head singles match series 3-2. And we're actually going to have a little special segment right here. Dr. Joshi, James Boyd, has done a little segment for us to go over some of the tournament matches that have happened recently in this IWGP Women's Tournament. So we'll throw it over to him, and he's going to tell us about how the tournament's been going.
Hey folks, it's James Boyd from One Nation Radio, aka Fly You Iwatani, aka Usher Raymond Mysterio Jr. What's going on? You know what? I'm going to keep that. I'm not even going to get rid of it. I thought it was fucking funny, so we're going to keep it there. Yeah, so the guys Keepin It Strong Style reached out to me to kind of give you guys a recap of what happened from last weekend in the IWGP Women's World Title Tournament. As you guys already know from previous episodes of Keepin It Strong Style, the beginning of the tournament started at Royal Quest. You had first round match. You had Avery versus Alpha Female, more probably known to you guys as Jazzy Gabber, that was in WWE or NXT UK, if you will. You had Alpha Female win that match in a not good match. But if you guys want to come back and watch these matches that I'm recapping, just know they're all better than this. they're all way better than this. So to give you an idea of what the bracket looked like after Alpha Female won, you had a more or less a foreign/Gaijin bracket. Then you had a domestic bracket. On the Gaijin bracket, after Alpha Female won, she advanced to the semifinals versus Kairi, I guess because of the WWE connection, international fame, blah, 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 whatever. They came up with an excuse to put her into the foreign side of the bracket. So it was Alpha Female versus Kairi, and then you had the domestic bracket, which ended up being decided by the also scientific way of drawing straws. They've done it before to determine who was going to be in the January 5th Wrestle Kingdom tag match. They had people draw straws. Basically had people choose colors. Obviously, you had, it was a tag team match. So two people, if they drew the blue straws, they would be represent the blue corner, red straws represent the red corner. If you got the white straws, you weren't going to Wrestle Kingdom. And they made comedy out of people that ended up missing out. But they did the same thing again. The same person that ended up not getting the white straw at the end of last year got one of the white straws this year, and the other person ended up another faction leader, Tam Nakano. She ended up missing out, but that's okay. You'll see her on Historic Crossover along with Shuri, who ended up missing out as well. But what they decided to do was the leaders of each faction that made it, which was Mayu Iwatani, Utami Hayashishita, Starlight Kid, and Julia. They were going to use the 5-star Grand Prix, effectively Stardom's G1 Climax, and the most points in each group to determine who was going to be the entrant and representative of each faction. They roughly used that. They also just came up with any old way to put people they wanted to put in there. Ultimately, you ended up coming up with Mayu Iwatani, the leader of Stars, up against Oedo Tai's Momo Watanabe, and the other match was leader of Queen's Quest, Utami Hayashishita versus Donna Del Mondo's Himeka. So I am going to start in chronological order. The domestic side of the bracket started up at the Korakuen Hall from October 22nd. It was semi-main event and main event. Semi-main event was Utami versus Himeka. Utami and Himeka were in the same block in the Grand Prix that just wrapped up on October 1st. Himeka actually bested Utami. Their career record up to this point before this match was 1-1. They had met previously in the final of the 2020 Grand Prix, where Utami ultimately won the tournament and went on to become the Red Belt champion and had a hell of a run with the title, one of the best champions of last year in pro wrestling. But getting back to the match, these two, when they get together, they basically say, hey, this is in all forms of matches, singles matches, also tag matches. They basically pair off and they say, hey, let's just run into each other really, really hard as if we're like bulls or if we're rams, and we're just going to slap meat. And it is just fun hoss wrestling. They just decide just shoulder tackles and lariats, and in between that they'll throw in variations of stuff like forearms, sliding D's, running knees, and it was just basically just hoss fight, slobber knocker, bomb throwing. Ultimately at the end you ended up with Utami getting the win. It's the story of the match more or less is that Utami is an all-arounder, but the thing that makes her special is that she's so damn strong and such a great power wrestler. The thing that Himeka has over Utami is she's probably stronger, but she's definitely bigger, and at times she can overwhelm Utami, but Utami has more gifts, physical gifts, and she can use them at her disposal and to stay on track when she's fighting from underneath her. She's catch herself behind in a match with Himeka. So she might get overwhelmed with forearms and lariats, or she might lose the shoulder tackle battle or get outgunned, but eventually she can use her deftness and to be able to get out of the way, evade, or be able to, like, just from technical ability, like, be able to put Himeka into a hold, or more specifically a sleeper, and that's how she's able to get back on track and on balance against Himeka. But Himeka has heart, and she also, for someone her size, and Joshi, she just has like this ability to bump that's very rare. But besides, but like she's like 5'9", and she bumps kind of like Sasha Banks for anyone to, whatever. But it's just rare. But anyway, so it ends up turning into Himeka is after getting out of a choke sleep hold. Utami just starts Germaning her around and end up throwing her on her neck. Himeka survives, and she fights back and gets back in control with a regal knee. And then from there, she goes to get her up for a power bomb, but Utami powers through with a back body drop. And then from there, they're just throwing bombs, and ultimately at the end, Utami just has more, ends up putting her away with a deadlift German suplex bridge for the 3, and Utami now has a career series at 2-1 and moves on to the next night in the semifinal against the eventual winner of the main event of this show. That will be Mayu Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe. Match starts with both of them running ropes, trying to get the technical advantage over each other. Ultimately, Momo ends up winning and tosses Mayu out to the floor. Out on the floor are both Mayu and Momo's faction members of the good guys, or baby faces, Stars, and the Heels, Oedo Tai. Momo's Oedo Tai team swarms upon Mayu. Momo's in the ring and runs a traction on the ref. Mayu's friends and Stars try to help her out, but they're overwhelmed by the numbers game, and they are all beaten up and fighting all on the floor while Momo's in the ring, and another member of Oedo Tai takes the ref, distracts the ref. Momo comes out. Momo now comes down to the ring. She has a hard plastic bat. It is not like the Sting bat where he will smoke people occasionally, or he will cover the bat. It is a hard plastic bat, and she swings the bat and tears up Mayu's back. And then from there, Mayu is selling, and she's worked from underneath throughout most of the rest of the match. So Momo's in control for the rest of the next part of the match, trying to work over Mayu's back. Mayu don't give up. Mayu fights back. Eventually, Momo gets frustrated and dumps Mayu back out to the floor. Momo gets on the apron and goes for a meteor off of the apron onto the floor. Ultimately, Mayu ducks out the way, and Momo ends up putting knees into some of her faction members of Oedo Tai, and then Mayu mounts a comeback. They end up back in the ring. Great exchanges of striking and blocking and ducking and evading, kicks, and then suplexes galore. And then, you end up getting, the basic gist of a Mayu and Momo match, which is excellent pro wrestling of just suplexes and kicks and blocks and smart, nifty ways of avoiding things and storytelling based off previous matches they've had where they put each other away with new moves or things that they weren't expected that they were able to escape out of, finish wild escapes out of matches in previous times. They basically went through the whole story of them in the past, the last probably 5 years since Momo turned 18. She's now 22, which is crazy. And at the end, Mayu has bested her, and Mayu is hits her dragon suplex, and and the ref counts 1, 2. You get a ref pull on 3. Then the ref is out the ring. You end up getting more Oedo Tai shenanigans. Ultimately, Mayu cuts all that off. She ends up going to the top rope, trying to finish this thing for the ref, as the ref gets back in. And at this point, the ref is pissed. The ref is Daichi. He's the head ref in Stardom. He's had to deal with Oedo Tai's bullshit, similar to Red Shoes and Bullet Club or House of Torture over the years. You're familiar. It's very familiar. So as we get towards the end, you have Oedo Tai make one last desperate play. They take the ref one more time. They have another person come up and hit Mayu with a weapon while she is on the second rope, about to dive off. And it ends up knocking Mayu down. Momo then grabs a chair while distracted. The ref turns back around, is looking at Momo about to use a chair after they have already, the ref has already witnessed multiple times Oedo Tai line stepping and breaking the rules, knowing that Daichi just will not throw out a match. And Mayu gets down after getting hit with a foreign object on the top turnbuckle on the second rope. Ends up hitting, super kicking the chair into Momo's face. The ref allows it because he's sick of the bullshit. And then Mayu while Momo is dazed on her feet, turns around towards the turnbuckle and hits a triple jump reverse Rana that just devastates Momo for the win. Great match. I give it 4 stars. Flat. If you've never seen a Momo Mayu match, you may like this match more than I have. I've seen matches that with them in this particular venue alone at Corrigan Hall. I think this might be their 4th best Corrigan Hall match I've seen, let alone matches, period. So I hold them to a high standard, and there was a lot of nonsense in the match that, it's typical House of Torture, Oedo Tai stuff that kind of grates on you regardless of how much or little is in there. Just like at this point, sometimes you just kind of want all of it gone. But anyway, great match regardless, and great finish. Mayu busts out the triple jump, reverse hurricane rana like maybe once a year. Maybe. It only does it with people like Momo or Takumi Iroha or Io Shirai. So it's a very rare move. So on to the next night show, pay-per-view, the start of the Tag League, World Tag League is New Japan, but Goddess of Stardom's Tag League tournament. Some main event was Kairi versus alpha female Jazzy Gabbert. If you watch WWE or watch NXT UK, you may be familiar with her. Maybe Mae Young Classic 2017, you may be familiar with her from that, but she's the second ever Red Belt champion in Stardom. She was one of the top gaijin in the history of Stardom over the 11 years of the company. She's back now in a role as in a invader faction called Neo Stardom Army. So she is back now and part of the tournament earlier, as we mentioned, with her beating Ava White. So this match is typical classic small baby face Imperial versus big bruiser monster. Kairi plays it very well. Kairi just takes a beating for most of the match. She puts in her flurries of escapes, of great peril, of doom, of danger. Tries to throw her body around off of the top turnbuckle, off of the apron, because of the gigantic size difference. At times it works, at times it doesn't. At times, she just gets caught and then put into more pain. Ultimately, she fires up after they end up back in the ring, and alpha female pulls off the corner pad and starts bullying and, disrespect, shoving, kicking Kyrie to fire Kyrie up. Kyrie fights back. And they end up all around the ring, end up on the top rope where it looked like there's going to be a vertical superplex. Ultimately, Kyrie cuts that off, ends up hitting a double diving foot stomp, similar to Alberto Del Rio, similar to a bunch of people you've seen in Lucha that, throw that off the second rope to someone that's hanging off the turnbuckle. And then ultimately, they get back towards that exposed turnbuckle. Kyrie ducks a charge from Alpha Female. She ducks under, hits her with the spinning back fist, then gets towards the middle of the ring, and then spears her into the corner post, and then hits the elbow and gets the win. 3 flat stars, nothing to write home about. If you got time, check it out. I wouldn't rush it. There's plenty. Look, that was like the 6th best match on this particular card, but it was still good nonetheless. Check it out if you want to. If not, fine. Then the main event, you have the winner from the previous night show in Korakuen Hall, Utami Hayashishita versus Mayu Iwatani. These two have only had 2 matches prior. Both have been in big pressure moments. It was the first match they had was actually Utami's 12th match ever in professional wrestling, the 2018 Grand Prix final. Great match, and we got a match 4 1/4. Yes. Her 12th match ever, she had a 4 1/4 star match, in my opinion. Yes, she's that damn good. She ended up losing that match. Mayu ended up winning the Grand Prix that year. And then they had their second match in November, I want to say 15th of 2020, where the red belt changed from Mayu Iwatani to Utami Hayashishita. Great match. Probably gave it like 4.5 at the time. So they only wrestle each other in big stakes moments. Like, they only wrestle each other in big show main events. This is the third one. I think this is my favorite match between these two, of the 3 they've had. Matches are starting out where Mayu is trying to out-wrestle her, rope running and technical ability, and tries to use her speed because Utami is such a killer with power. Eventually, Utami cuts her off and no-sells some of the stuff she's trying to do. And then Utami goes to work on Mayu's back with strikes to the back, stomps to the back, sidewalk slams, runs like all types of power stuff just to try to get her off base, try to neutralize the speed. Mayu fights back. Mayu ends up at some point getting Utami to the outside. She hits a tope through the ropes to the floor. Then the back inside the ring. And then it's just a trade of them just throwing each other around with suplexes, just back and forth, no selling. Then Utami's on the ropes. Mayu gets her up and drops her with a dragon suplex, and she ends up kicking out at 2.9. Mayu looks like she has nothing left to do. Like, she has nothing left, no plan. She doesn't know how she's going to get her out of here. Utami ends up fighting back to her feet, overwhelms her with power again. Then after, working over her back, she says, all right, I got something for you. Like, you just went to the top rope. You're trying to go for a moonsault. I'm going to cut you off at the top rope. I'm going to stop you. And then I'm going to jump off the second rope with air raid crash. Instead of dropping you on your bad back that I've worked over, I'm just going to drop you at a high angle, and you're just going to land on your neck off the second rope with air raid crash. Mayu saw as if she broke her neck. I was concerned, even for her, who has, I think, has a vibranium slinky for her neck. But Mayu escapes. Mayu ends up escaping out of various types of power bombs and Samoan drops with a crucifix bomb. It's another crucifix bomb. And then Mayu just lights her up with kicks, gets Utami into a corner, hits a running power bomb from one corner to the next, and then it hits one top rope moonsault, goes to the top, hits another top rope moonsault, and gets the win. Probably 4.5 stars. Incredible match. These two were excellent together. Like they do nothing but have 4 1/4 or 4.5 star matches. But that is the gist of the tournament up to this point. The final that you will see on November 20th will be Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi. This will be their 4th match in their career, singles match. The first one they had when they were young girls, early in the business, and their last 2 matches, one was for the red belt in 2015 and one was for the white belt in 2017. And both those matches I thought were great when I've watched them years ago. But I need to wrap this up because Josh gave me 20 minutes and I thought 20 minutes would be more than enough time for me to talk about 4 matches, but apparently not. But basically, what I want to tell you guys is that these two, Kairi and Mayu, have a long history of them being faction mates and kind of carriers and standard bearers for the company in between 2015 and 2017 as things were going bad after they got some bad publicity in the promotion and the company almost folded. This story of them 5.5 years later, coming back is a success story that, like, for most promotions, they don't survive to get back to this point to where they're even, like, you know, multiple times bigger than they were at that time to get back to two of the icons, pillars of the promotion's history come back together to meet at this stage. These are 2 of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and I can't wait to see them have this moment, this match together on such a big stage. When I started watching this in 2019, I never thought this would be possible, but this is really cool. So I'm super excited. You guys are in for a treat to see these 2 do their thing. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. So I'm going to throw this back to Jeremy and Josh, and I'm sorry for going 45. Looking at now 1 minute over time. Sorry, forgive me. Please forgive me. Forgive me. Bye.
And we're back. James, thanks so much for doing that segment for us and getting us all up to speed on how these tournament matches have been going. I feel like this is a final that we kind of predicted from the very start.
Yeah. I can't believe after I was gracious enough not to call James Dr. Joshi on this show, you were like, all right, we got Dr. Joshi on the line. No, but thank you, James, for watching Joshi and watching Stardom and kind of letting some of us who are less knowledgeable on the subject off the hook, because I was not ready to talk about those matches. I didn't see them.
Yeah, same here.
But I will listen to the review, and I am going to probably try and find a way to catch up on the domestic side of the bracket, because we already saw the international side.
Right. So yeah, I mean, overall, that should be a really fun matchup there on Historic Crossover with Mayu and Kairi. I think as we'll get closer, we'll do official previews. But I mean, to me, I think right now, I would say it makes a lot of sense for Kairi to win, since she has established that kind of U.S. fan base with her NXT and WWE runs.
For like a Western audience combined with their domestic, and what match is going to just have the most crossover appeal for, not just those 2 groups, but also just New Japan's audience in general, it had to be Kairi and Mayu. Like, that's the match that just makes the most sense from that standpoint.
Yeah. All right, want to take us through the rest of the news there?
Sure. So FTR has been added to the lineup for NJPW Battle Autumn in Osaka on November 5th. In a video released late Monday on social media, NJPW announced that FTR are set for the Saturday, November 5th tour closer in Osaka, Japan. FTR cut a promo in the video challenging NJPW to present them with the best possible challengers. So we're going to get them versus, like, I don't know, Great Bash Heel, probably, right?
I think it's going to be Khan and Okab.
Okay. I bet. What if it's a non-title match?
A title eliminator.
A title, yeah. They don't call it that, but what if it's a non-title match to establish them to get a title shot down the road?
It better not be like. It just needs to be a title match.
See, I'm thinking about the long term here. I'm thinking about these teams facing off on January 4th, and you're like, no, they're dropping the belt on November 5th.
There's a job to be done.
You want FTR to lose on November 5th, and you want Karl Anderson to be stripped and ousted from the company. There's a lot of people who are like, absolutely. Like, they're like, that's why Jeremy's the ace of podcasts. NJPW Strong will return to Los Angeles in November for the Detonation 2022 taping tour. The promotion has announced a Sunday, November 20th return date for the Vermont Hollywood, the company's home base for Strong tapings throughout 2022. Tickets for Detonation go on sale this Friday, October 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time, with prices ranging from $25 to $90. Strong Openweight Champion Fred Rosser, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jay White, David Finlay, and Hikuleo are the talent that are currently listed for that show or for those shows. NJPW on Axis continues this Thursday at 10/9 Central with Jonah versus Okada. Finally, Red Pro Uprising 2022, Saturday, December 17th, your call. Bethnal Green, London. Tomohiro Ishii returns, as well as Zack Sabre Jr., and we have the upcoming, much anticipated, undisputed versus undefeated title match with Ricky Knight Jr. defending his title against Okan, as well as every championship in Red Pro being defended on that show, which sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it should be a fun show. It seems like, old times with Ishii going over there, Zack being back. You got Okan over there. So, yeah, that should be a really fun show. Who else might show up? You never know. So
Punk.
Bro, what? I know it won't happen, but what if he did?
Kenny Omega.
Only
just Matt Jackson by himself. No one
Nick.
else.
Kota Ibushi.
That's funny.
Man. So a few questions here. Les Commission 7252 says, will you guys be reviewing the upcoming 2 New Zealand shows?
I really don't know. I haven't given too much thought about that because it's like we're already covering the domestic product. We do all these retro, match reviews and then the US stuff, and then you want us to cover the Oceanic brand too. I don't know.
I think we need to get like Sir Sam or somebody. We need an Oceanic respondent like we have James to do for the Joshi. We need somebody to drop segments for Tamahashi.
I would be 100% in favor of us having an Oceanic like correspondent that just covers. Actually, we should get one for New Japan Strong too. We should get people to just do the podcast for us in bits. We just splice them in.
He also asked, with the friendly competitive relationship between Tanada and Taichi and the love-hate relationship between Naito and Sabre, wouldn't it be interesting to see each pairing team up with for this year's World Tag League? Could you guys also see a concept where in the near future New Japan will make a rivals-only World Tag League?
No and no.
Yeah.
And I think these are inventive questions. I just don't see either of them as being feasibly realistic. Like, they're not going to put opposing guys from different factions together in a tag team, and they're not going to do what was that called in WCW when they did this? Was it Battle Bowl?
Yeah, Battle Bowl.
Yeah, they had the battle, or was it Lethal Lottery or something? I don't know.
Oh, well, AEW just did one too recently with the woman, the Deadly Draw or something like that.
Yeah, what was that called? I don't remember, but yeah, they used to have the tournament where all the rivals ended up tagging together, and it was all random. And I don't know. I don't see New Japan doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I know Gato loves Western concepts, but I have a hard time seeing him do that. I mean, we're already getting a strange bedfellow for the 4-way juniors match, which is already kind of weird.
Lethal Lottery.
Yeah, there we go. So again, what would a storyline be? What would be the purpose? I get for the junior title match, those guys are in a 4-way. You want some kind of preview.
It's for the lulz. It's because neither team would win. It'd just be funny. It'd be like when Yano and Tanahashi teamed together last year, and they had the special suits made and the weird pompadour hair.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be this weird World Tag League that they just happen to all team together.
Yeah, it'd be weird, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Moving on to Bash, who was on the show last week. He says, I forgot to ask you this last week when I was on, but what's with NJPW putting up the theme tunes on YouTube, but they haven't updated their playlist on Spotify or on Apple Music in over 2.5 years. Is it due to licensing or payment issues? If AEW and the Fed can upload it quick, why can't NJPW? Is this another thing that just makes them look second class? Cheers, lads.
Well, I mean, I understand the complaint, but you're complaining about them not uploading theme songs, and I was complaining about them not uploading a supposed 5-star match. I don't think they're the same thing. No, but I'm not a theme song guy. I don't arrange any of the audio for the show, so I mean, it's not like I go looking for this stuff on Spotify. I had no idea. To be honest, I had no clue until this moment that any of New Japan's like theme music was on Spotify. I just thought everyone went to YouTube to listen to.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them on there up until.
Are they like on Apple Music and stuff?
Yeah, I have it. I have it downloaded on Apple Music.
What?
Like up until like I think like Jay White is like the most like recent theme that they have on there.
Okay, well maybe I'm just like missing the vision. I didn't realize that this was something that they ever did. And I mean, yeah, if the other two big companies, I didn't know that. I didn't know WWE and AEW were putting theme songs on.
Bro, you did it?
Why would I?
Dude, they AEW every week, like Adam Cole's song, #1 on Apple Music whenever he comes out. Like they're always pushing like the Apple Music for themes.
Well, first off, I've never noticed that they say that, or I guess I don't be reading that shit. But like, number two is like, why would I listen to wrestling theme song when I could listen to good music?
Sometimes you want to get hype, you know. Sometimes you want to hear.
I want to get hype. I'll listen to like
go Ace, go Ace.
If I want to listen to a theme song, I go to YouTube. I don't go to Spotify. What? People download like wrestling music and listen to it for real?
Dude, yeah, dude. Adam Cole's thing was like the #1 chart on Apple Music for real, like legit, like all categories.
Yo, that's popping me so hard right now. I've never done that in my life.
Oh man.
I just go to YouTube. I just feel like that's where regular people go to listen to the wrestling music.
Nah, son, you gotta go Apple Music or Spotify.
Oh my god, do you guys like make playlists and shit?
Oh, I have an AW playlist. I got a Bullet Club playlist.
I didn't know that. Yeah, so maybe New Japan does look second rate, not putting stuff up. The reason why I have no clue. Do you know anything?
I have no idea. I don't know if it's like a thing with it needing to be released in Japan first, or like how that all, what makes it different. But yeah, I mean, they do seem to be kind of behind and up. I mean, they're behind uploading a lot of stuff. So
a lot of stuff.
The music is the least of their worries right now.
Right.
They are doing the theme Tuesday thing on YouTube, so at least they're getting the themes up there. Moving on to a Hawaiian Punch BV. He says FTR finally making their way to Japan in November. Who do you want to see them face against? Should Gato make them defend their titles against the Good Brothers just to see the IC burn down to ashes?
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my opinion, I think there's money to be made potentially with them on January 4th. So I wouldn't have them drop the title yet, meaning I wouldn't have them face off against Okan and Cobb. I'd probably put them in there with like Fale and Chase Owens and have them beat those guys.
Ugh.
I know, but
they just lost to Khan and Okab.
Bro, it's New Japan. It doesn't need to really make that much sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It should. They should have rankings and stuff like that. But like, how often do we see undeserving people get title shots for nothing?
Yeah. But they kind of went out of their way, though, to kind of have Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan beat those guys, though. So I feel like if anybody gets a match, it should be Jeff Cobb. And plus, there's still all that history from Forbidden Door with them not getting pinned. And so,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it just feels like 11-5 in Osaka doesn't seem like a good time to pay off your... I mean, you got the titles on FTR. They're one of the most popular teams in the West. You should probably do something with that. And just having them lose to United Empire in 11-5 doesn't make a lot of business sense.
Well, I guess it depends on if they're going to be working in Japan in the future. Like, what's the future for these guys? Like, are there going to be more dates? Are they set for January 4th, which is the same day as a Dynamite? Who knows?
Well, regardless, whether you have lots of dates on them in the future and it's going to be a fruitful, relationship or not, you have them drop the belts on 1-4. That's where the big AEW tag team should drop the belts, is on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes the most sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
It does, but the only one thing is, what if they're needed for Dynamite that day, and then you can't do the title match?
They're barely on Dynamite as it is.
He also asked,
that's another thing too, is like Jeff Cobb put out the tweet today about, he's like, I'm so glad these guys could, bless us with their presence between their so busy,
AEW schedule, their
schedule,
AAA
all
defenses.
These title defenses.
Yeah.
And I retweeted and I was like, stop Jeff when he's telling lies. Oh wait. And no one liked that shit.
Bro, nobody liked that FTR hate, bro.
They don't like FTR slander on the internet. I don't get it. They're so easy to slander. I mean, the belt marxism, the cosplayism.
Dude, Floyd's not going to like this episode.
There's a lot. Pitching their wagon to CM Punk for the clout. A lot of shit.
So his next question: seeing the new Three Musketeers reunite at Inoki's funeral was nice. How would you feel if there was a Three Musketeers versus Three Musketeers match for one of Muto's final matches? Daisuke Hashimoto could represent his father. Naito could represent the Dark Ace and Chono, seeing as how Chono will be recovering from spine surgery at the time.
I mean, in theory, would that be a cool match to have? Sure, but because two of the three original, Musketeers are not available or even alive, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of shoehorning things if you're trying to put in these other representatives. Plus, a lot of what they're doing with Muto's, final matches is to draw as much money as they possibly can, and I don't see that being having Daichi Hashimoto in there. That's not going to draw.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that. He also asked, what would it take for Triple H allowing Nakamura to do a show over in Japan?
What would it take for Triple H to let Nakamura come over here and work?
Yeah.
I have no idea. They did let him work the Noah anniversary show a few years. No, I'm sorry. That was Kenta.
Yeah.
They let Kenta work Marufuji, but then again, that was what happened right after that. He asked for his release and then he went to New Japan. So I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe if Muto was I want to face Nakamura in one big of my retirement matches, maybe. But
I still, why would Triple H say yes to that?
Yeah, I don't know. He has thoughts on Islam Makhachev. How do you say the last name? Makhachev.
Oh, you know what it could be? The real answer is, what would it take for Triple H to allow Nakamura to do a show over in Japan? SmackDown doing a tour in Japan. That's what it's going to take.
What do they call it? The Rising Sun tour that they do?
I don't know. I've never heard that, so I don't want to comment on it. I know they did the Beast in the East tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't expect us to see Nakamura come over. Also, do I want to see Nakamura come over at this point?
I mean, he's washed.
I can't remember. Yeah, he's washed, bro. Why?
For who? For what?
For who? For what? Oh man.
So next, some fight questions here. Thoughts on Islam? How do you say his last name?
I say Makhachev, but that's wrong. I think it's I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest with you.
The thoughts on Islam's dominating performance on over Charles Oliveira?
It's exactly what I thought was going to happen, to be honest with you. In fact, I mean, Dubronx is one of my favorite lightweight fighters of all time. I fully support the guy. The run of, monstrous wins that he's been on over the past 2 years has been pretty exhilarating. But I just didn't think he was going to beat Makhachev. And yeah, he did. Makhachev pretty much ran over the guy. And you know what it reminded me of in a certain way? The way he was able to nullify Charles Oliveira on the ground. It reminded me a lot of when Fedor did the same thing, 20 years ago to Big Nogueira, when, Nog was this colossal heavyweight, submitting everybody, winning all these, crazy fights. And then he stood in front of Fedor Emelianenko with his Sambo background and just couldn't do anything with him from his back. And as good as Oliveira is, he couldn't do much with Makhachev from his back. And eventually that kind of ground and pound and that kind of, constant pressure on top, it's just too much. It doesn't matter how great you are, which there's no denying Oliveira is great. But yeah, I thought Makhachev was going to beat him, and he did.
Yeah, I did see this fight. First time I watched UFC in a while. Yeah, I mean, Islam just destroyed him. I mean, he is training with Khabib and had tough training camp and just kind of went out there and just destroyed him, really totally dominated him on the ground, and ended up being a real great fight. And I don't know who's going to be able to beat Islam in that division. I think he destroyed one of the toughest guys in the division, so it's going to be a tough task to find somebody to beat him.
Well, lightweight in general is historically the most competitive weight class in all of mixed martial arts. And there's a lot of guys, as great as Makhachev looked on that night and as great as he has looked, he's only beaten one other top 10 fighter in the entire division prior to this. So there's a lot of guys on the horizon, plus a lot of like young and up and comers who are also making their name in that weight division. I mean, it's really tough there's very few guys that have ever had like true lengthy dominant runs at 155.
Yeah. And he also asked, who do you got in Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva?
Anderson Silva all day. I know a lot of people are probably thinking the youth, explosiveness, and knockout power of Jake Paul are going to overcome an older Anderson Silva. The eyeball test is telling me no. I watch both of these guys. I watch their videos to see what they're doing, especially considering this freak show fight. And I might be wrong, but bro, I wouldn't fuck with Anderson Silva when it comes to boxing. This guy, he's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I know the fight was happening. I haven't been paying attention to any of the training or anything what's been going on. I mean, I would think, like you're saying, that Anderson Silva should be able to kind of piece him up, but maybe they're going to do a work. And
everything I see from Jake Paul, like he's definitely explosive. He can crack. There's no doubt about it. But he's always off balance. He's very, very. He's just all over the place. Like he's a green fighter. He's a guy that legitimately should be fighting other like 4-round, or amateur guys, and not like. And granted, he hasn't fought any actual real fighters. He's only fought, MMA fighters or other athletes. And Anderson Silva again is an MMA fighter, but he's a guy who actually has boxing experience and has had professional fights. And when I see the two of them move, I mean, one of these things is not like the other. Is there a chance Jake Paul still catches him? Sure. We've seen him knock out guys, Tyron Woodley most recently, but I just got the feeling Anderson Silva is going to outbox this dude and maybe even knock him out. Probably.
Yeah, hopefully. And these, crazy freak show fights with these Paul brothers.
Well, it's not ending because in Saudi Arabia on
Logan Paul and Roman.
Yeah, the greatest wrestler in the world, Roman Reigns, is taking on Jake Paul or Logan Paul.
Well, now let's move on to recommended match of the week. So last week we decided in honor to remember the loss, the death of Kitamura, we would watch 2 of his matches. So we watched him versus Yuji Nagata in one of the trial series matchups, and then we watched the finals of the Young Lions Cup in 2017 against Oka, which is now known as the Great Okan.
Yeah, I mean, these were both 2 really meaningful matches from a certain extent because Nagata was sort of like, from my understanding, the main, guy that was sort of directing his training and, kind of forming him in the Noge dojo. And then Oka was the other young lion that they signed on the same day. They entered the dojo at the same time. They had the press release together, and their careers in the early part of it just kind of like intertwined to a certain extent. They were foils again, for one another. And so going back and reviewing these two matches in particular that were so kind of personal for him, I thought was like very fitting.
Yeah, I mean, these matches, they're fun to go back and watch. Like, I forgot just how awesome Kitamura was. A guy that size that has the amateur wrestling background and then goes to the dojo training. Like watching him and Okan, both former amateur wrestlers, like the wrestling in that match, like the lockups and the transitions were so good in that match. And honestly, I forgot that Kitamura did a spear and jackhammer for his finish. It's been so long since we reviewed his match or talked about him. I forgot that he used to do the spear jackhammer, and that was so awesome. I remember the Fang mouthpiece. Like, dude, there's everything about his look.
Well, that's why Great Okan started wearing the Fang mouthpiece, was as a tribute to Kitamura.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the match with Nagata. Again, Nagata, another former amateur wrestler, too. And so, like, watching those guys kind of pummel and wrestle around. And, dude, the chops. I forgot how hard Kitamura would chop people. Those chops were sounding off on both Nagata and Oka.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like rewatching these matches, it was very interesting because at the time, we were just starting to anticipate Kitamura maybe going on excursion or maybe graduating, one or the other. We weren't really sure, but they definitely seemed to be fast tracking him. And, we didn't know that these were some of the final matches of his actual wrestling career. Like, that seemed unthinkable, but that's the way it did end up turning out. As far as the actual quality of the matches, I thought that these were both pretty good. I still did think Kitamura didn't, in my opinion, look ready for the place that they were putting him. They were putting him in that 7-match series. I still think he looked pretty green and maybe not quite ready, but you could see all the promise that was there, the look, the charisma, and the explosiveness. And I mean, he was a very unique combination of these things that you don't see come along every day in the wrestling business. And the match with Oka, I still stand by our original viewpoint that Oka was the better of the two guys, and I feel like he stood out in this match. But it was a really good payoff to the tournament, and kind of fun to see Kitamura sell for Oka and just sell, and then finally, boom, spear jackhammer, get the bum out of there, get out of my ring, give me my trophy, and see him crowned as the Young Lions champion. But the match with Nagata was actually a truly great match. Like, Nagata decided to take this dude to the limit. It wasn't just a Young Lions match, turned up a little bit. This was like a full-fledged, all right, we're gonna put on a show. And the slaps, the slapping sequences in this match were fucking crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, him and Nagata. They were slapping the crap out of each other, and Nagata just firing up, come on, hit me harder. Is that all you got?
Yeah, and Kitamura at one point was pop, 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 just continuously slapping him, but Nagata was not budging or selling for any of it, and just eating them up all day. And Kitamura is literally losing power and starting to slump as he's slapping Nagata's bare face, and Nagata's just eating it up, and then boom, one forearm, and then he drops Kitamura. There were some awesome exchanges here.
Yeah, so these were really fun matches to watch and revisit since the first time we watched them in 2017. So I would definitely recommend going back watching some of these matches. Just watch some of that Young Lions Cup, some of those Lion Gate projects. There's a lot of fun stuff in 2017.
Yeah, and Nagata ended up picking up the win here. And the interesting thing is that best of 7 series, the final match he was going to have at the time, Kitamura was going to be against Nakanishi, who was already kind of on his way out of the company. And they had one prior match in the tournament and Kitamura almost beat Nakanishi, and it felt like in that final match he was going to pick up his first major win, and then it just never happened, and then he never came back.
Yeah, it's a crazy like what could have been story right there.
Right, and at the same time, there's also the aspect where we call something ahead of time and be like, there's no doubt he would have been a world champion, right? But then it's like you just never know how history actually turns out. I'm sure there's a lot of people in 1987 that were saying the same thing about like Lex Luger. It's going to be the biggest star that we've ever seen, and didn't quite turn out that way. So who knows what really would have happened if Kitamura stuck around? We don't really actually know.
Yeah. So for this week, we're going to go back to recommended match of the week and excursion match of the week, and we're going to pick up where we left off. So it was my pick for the excursion match of the week, and I had picked the Motor City Machine Guns versus Aussie Open from the September 22nd episode of Impact. So
I had thought that I'd gotten out of this and I wasn't ever going to have to actually watch that match, but it looks like I'm going to have to go back and do the work, as Cody Rhodes likes to say.
Outwork everyone.
Outwork everyone. And then, as we discussed on a previous episode several weeks ago, I had originally given you a 1987 5-on-5 elimination New Japan style tag match, and it was a good one, but not the one I actually meant to give you. The one that I wanted us to watch is from September 12th, 1988. So that is the official pick, and that's the one. I've already sent you the link, Jeremy. But in this match, it's the team of Tatsumi Fujinami, Kichi Yamada, better known as Jushin Thunder Liger, Shiro Koshinaka, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, and Kengo Kimura, as they took on the team of Hiro Saito, Kuniaki Kobayashi, Super Strong Machine, Masa Saito, and Riki Choshu.
Nice. Looking forward to checking that out and reviewing that next week. And that is going to wrap things up for us here this week. Next week, we'll be back to review all the shows that we've previewed today. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. You're at facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can also find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, the Pro Black Guy, Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can also email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Tumowitz. The AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. And then the Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny Kugler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. You know, music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
The Camp Monsters podcast from RAI Co-op Studios is back with a new season, telling the tales of terrifying encounters with mysterious beasts of America. Hear about the creatures that wander the woods and lurk in the water, the ones that fly through the air or even prowl around a backyard like yours. We search the country for camp monsters. All you have to do is search for Camp Monsters from REI Co-op Studios wherever you listen to podcasts.